If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 61, Getting Closer to Tsunade. I have quite a few medicinal herbs in this laboratory. Since we have time, let's make a few more vials of the red healing potion. Tsunade considered. We can distribute them to Naoki and the others later. No problem. Natsuki nodded. He was getting a free ride anyway. He didn't need to provide anything. Tsunade quickly brought over a pile of herbs. Natsuki took out a portion. He stood opposite Tsunade, extracted the essence, then added the Hashirama cells. As time passed, a vial of red healing potion was successfully produced. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Enfiria Template Ability 3, Red Healing Potion Blood of God. Although Natsuki had made the red healing potion before, that had been an incomplete version without Hashirama cells. This was his first successful production. Natsuki glanced at the notification and continued making more. They didn't stop until noon. Your speed is actually faster than mine. Tsunade counted the vials and found that Natsuki had made 2 more than her. She looked astonished. Probably because I've tried many times before. Natsuki blinked. In reality, it was because after unlocking the ability, his proficiency was maxed out. Tsunade didn't delve deeper. She had Natsuki take the red healing potions to Uzumaki Mito's residence. Sister, what took you so long? Naoki complained. We're starving. Sorry. Making the red healing potions took some time. Tsunade paused. You two divide these. Red healing potion? Is it related to the blue healing potion? Naoki asked curiously. Because the blue healing potion was affordable and effective, practically everyone had one now. He had taken quite a few himself. Its effect is at least 5 times stronger than the blue healing potion. Tsunade held up 5 fingers. At critical moments, it can save lives. 5 times? That powerful? Naoki looked surprised, then excited. Then I need to prepare more. Do you think we have unlimited supply? Tsunade said, annoyed. This is all we have for now. Aren't you giving any to Natsuki? Kushina asked, confused. I already took mine earlier. These are all yours. Natsuki stepped forward, opened a storage scroll, and produced all the red healing potions he and Tsunade had made. In the end, Naoki and Kushina each received 7 vials. Sister, who invented these 2 healing potions? Naoki asked after storing his share. Children shouldn't ask so many questions. Tsunade raised her hand and flicked his forehead. The red healing potion's effect was too extraordinary. If people discovered Natsuki was the inventor, he would never have peace. It's about time. I'll go cook. Natsuki changed the subject. I'll help you. Tsunade followed him into the kitchen. They had often cooked together before. They already had a tacit understanding. The two divided the work and cooperated, quickly preparing a table full of dishes. Grandma Mito, have a taste. Naoki placed a piece of chicken in Mito's bowl. Mito picked up her chopsticks. After chewing a few times, surprise appeared on her face. Natsuki made this. Mito evaluated. Among all the meals I've eaten in my life, this ranks in the top 3. I told you Natsuki's cooking is exceptionally good. Kushina raised her chin proudly. Those who didn't know would think she was talking about her own cooking. Seeing this, Mito couldn't help but smile. As the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the choice of marriage partner had to be extremely careful. Given Natsuki's background and talent, he had a chance. The meal ended in a harmonious atmosphere. Natsuki. Tsunade produced a scroll. This is the ninjutsu scroll for the spirit transformation technique. Memorize the contents first. S-rank ninjutsu were extremely precious. With Natsuki's status, he couldn't keep the scroll, but memorizing it amounted to the same thing. What is the spirit transformation technique? Naoki couldn't help but ask. He considered Natsuki his biggest rival. Seeing him learning a new technique, he naturally wanted intel. It's S-rank. Tsunade briefly explained the spirit transformation technique's effect. What? Naoki was completely stunned. Don't overthink it. I'm just getting a preliminary understanding. I don't have the qualifications to train in it yet. Natsuki knew what he was thinking. He explained. Thank goodness. Naoki exhaled with relief. What do you mean thank goodness? Tsunade glared at him. Natsuki is talented and works harder than you. You should learn from him. One day, I will defeat him. Noeka said, unwilling to concede. I previously combined water release to create a set of kenjutsu. Its foundation is water breathing. It can enhance water release power. I can teach you. Natsuki considered. If you want to learn kenjutsu, I can teach you that later too. I'll learn. Noeka said immediately. When fighting the rogue ninjas in the land of water, he had seen Natsuki use water breathing. He just hadn't expected this kenjutsu could also enhance water release power. Tsunade was mildly taken aback. He's actually willing to teach Noeka? For a moment, her gaze toward Natsuki softened considerably. Their relationship grew closer because of this. Natsuki, if there's anything you want to learn in the future, just come find me. Tsunade said, returning the favor. If you want to learn second granduncle's water release, I can teach you everything. Noeka followed up. I won't focus on water release for now. I'll concentrate on water release chakra nature transformation training first. Natsuki smiled. Ability 4 of his Kamatu Tanjiro template required proficient level water release chakra nature transformation to unlock. Ability 5 required mastering total concentration, constant, and he had been constantly refining his water breathing. Then Kushina started to speak but stopped. Although she also wanted to learn, she could only focus on sealing jutsu right now. I'll teach you later when there's a suitable ninjutsu. Natsuki thought of the marine rokushiki from One Piece. The marine rokushiki was a taijutsu style suitable for Kushina and Tsunade. But although he had awakened a smoker template, it didn't include the rokushiki. He could only try his luck later. I'll wait for you. Kushina nodded vigorously. Let's go to the courtyard. Natsuki stood and went outside with Noeka. But he didn't teach him personally. He created a shadow clone to do so. Because he wanted to test out a bow. Natsuki extended his hands and projected one. He then climbed onto the wall. Clairvoyance. Natsuki looked far into the distance. The surrounding scenery came into full view. He roughly estimated that he could see clearly within at least 4 kilometers. Natsuki recalled that a normal Hyuga ninja's Byakugan range was only 1 kilometer. However, the problem with clairvoyance was that it lacked X-ray vision. Chapter 62, I am the Hokage. The time came to the next day, a new week. As Natsuki and Yakushi Nono walked down the street, they could hear villagers everywhere discussing the newly minted Konoha Sunin. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade were already quite famous, but now they were known to everyone, having made a huge splash in the ninja world. The fastest way to become famous was to defeat a famous target. In the battle over the Uzumaki clan's annihilation, the most famous opponents were undoubtedly the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. But facing Konoha, 1 had died and 2 were captured. After walking Nono to Konoha Hospital, Natsuki headed toward the Ninja Academy. Upon arriving, he became a popular figure. A crowd surrounded him, asking all sorts of questions. By the time he dealt with them and entered Class 3A, half an hour had already passed. Natsuki looked up and found the entire classroom had fallen silent. Fortunately, having lived 2 lives, he had thick skin. He walked to his seat as if nothing had happened. Good morning, Minato. Natsuki greeted him with a smile. Natsuki? Minato asked with a complicated expression. How is your strength improving so fast? Why do you ask? Natsuki raised an eyebrow. Although it wasn't mentioned in the announcement, teacher told me. Minato said pointedly. Natsuki understood the underlying meaning. He knew about Akabino Jinin. You can do it too. Natsuki comforted him. Your Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu is more than enough to kill a Jonin. How can a Jonin be that easy to kill? Minato shook his head with self-awareness. With his current strength, if he fought a Jonin, he would probably be killed before he could even use the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. He couldn't imagine how Natsuki had actually killed Akabino Jinin. That was one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, an outstanding figure even among Jonin. This isn't like your usual personality. Natsuki joked. I won't admit defeat easily. Hearing this, Minato immediately said seriously. It wasn't that he had no hope. As long as he learned the Flying Thunder God technique, he would have a chance. After morning classes ended, Natsuki left the Ninja Academy. But instead of going to find Orochimaru as usual, he went to Konoha Hospital. Because he needed to make the first batch of red healing potions with Tsunade. They originally could have had other medical ninjas participate, but considering the potion's preciousness, they had abandoned that idea. Natsuki naturally supported this. Rarity increased value. Only if he and Tsunade knew the production method would his status rise and he could earn more money. Time flew. February arrived. Natsuki could finally rest and stop making medicine, but he still had plenty to do. First, practice archery. Second, train in water release chakra nature transformation. Third, train in water breathing. Fourth, learn water release, hiding in mist technique. Fifth, learn a control type ninjutsu. He had already obtained a classic genjutsu from Orochimaru, the D-rank demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. Sixth, develop a new ability for the Logia type plume fruit. These 6 tasks corresponded to 6 abilities unlock conditions. Natsuki planned to start with the easy ones, completing the first, fourth, and fifth tasks as soon as possible. While he was training, a rare Jonin meeting was taking place in the Hokage building. A Jonin meeting referred to a meeting only Jonin could attend. Because Jonin were generally busy, it was only convened for particularly important matters. Shimura Danzo walked into the meeting room with a frown. Previously, Sarutobi Hiruzen would notify him in advance before convening such a meeting. But not this time. As the leader of Root and the Hokage's assistant, he actually didn't know why this meeting had been called. Do you know why this meeting was convened? Danzo walked up to meet Okado Homura and Yuta and Koharu and asked directly. No. Homura and Koharu exchanged a glance. You don't know either. Astonishment appeared on Danzo's face. This was unprecedented. Could Omegakure be preparing to launch a war against us? Homura guessed. Unlikely. Koharu shook her head. War involves many things. It's impossible to hide it from us. And I noticed something. Homura looked around. Many Takubutsu Jonin and Jonin are absent from this meeting. Only the Jonin who are extremely important to Konoha are here. Danzo looked around and also noticed the problem. Right at that moment, the meeting room fell silent as Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru walked in. Seeing them, Danzo's face darkened. The title Konoha Sunin had been very popular recently. But Danzo knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen was pushing it behind the scenes. As for the purpose, it was self-evident, preparing for the next Hokage. If this continued, when would he ever become Hokage? Danzo retracted his gaze and sat in silence. Not long after, Sarutobi Hiruzen walked in. Everyone in the meeting room immediately stopped chatting and looked at him. After sitting down, Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand. 2 ANBU squads appeared and distributed 3 vials of red healing potion to each Jonin present. Hiruzen, what kind of potion is this? Danzo couldn't help but ask. Red healing potion. Sarutobi Hiruzen replied. Its effect is comparable to B-rank medical ninjutsu. It can be used for first aid. What? Danzo, Homura, and the other Jonin all showed shocked expressions. They all knew very well how terrifying a healing potion comparable to B-rank medical ninjutsu was. Only Tsunade and her 2 teammates remained relatively calm. They had known beforehand. The red healing potion's cost is very high. These 3 vials are given to you free by Konoha in appreciation of your contributions. Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a broad smile. Upon hearing this, the Jonin all showed grateful expressions. If you run out, you can submit a purchase request to the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen added. Tsunade's mouth twitched. He really knows how to present borrowed flowers to the Buddha. But it was indeed a move befitting an outstanding Hokage. Hiruzen. Danzo stood. Who is its inventor? For his safety, that information is classified. Sarutobi Hiruzen refused. Just keeping it secret isn't enough. Danzo said impatiently. I suggest Root take charge of this person's protection. There is no room for negotiation on this matter. Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at him. That's enough. Hiruzen. Danzo couldn't help but speak anxiously. He knew the red healing potion's value too well. Obtaining it would allow him to indirectly control other ninjas. Although it was weak control, with the red healing potion, he could accomplish many things extremely beneficial for his path to becoming Hokage. Enough. I am the Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't be bothered to continue. He directly used his position to pressure him. Danzo's expression froze. He wanted to say something but stopped, not daring to speak further. He clenched his fists, screaming internally, Hiruzen, you will regret this. Chapter 63, the targeted red healing potion. The Jonin meeting ended. Tsunade went to Orochimaru's residence. Orochimaru and Jiraiya didn't accompany her. They had been appointed to handle negotiations with the Kirigakure ninjas. Tsunade had declined the task, citing the need to make red healing potions with Natsuki as an excuse. Upon arriving at Orochimaru's residence, she stopped in her tracks. Standing at the door, she looked toward the courtyard. Naoki was practicing water breathing. Natsuki and his shadow clones were practicing archery, water release, hiding in mist technique, and demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. Tsunade crossed her arms, secretly wondering what kind of ninjutsu this brat was trying to create now. She could understand learning the hiding in mist technique and the hell viewing technique. But why practice archery? As a ninja tool, the bow was rarely used. First, because it took up space and easily attracted enemy attention, unlike kunai and shuriken, which were compact. Second, execution speed was slow. Shooting an arrow definitely took more time than directly throwing a kunai or shuriken. If it were anyone else, Tsunade would advise them not to waste time. But with Natsuki, she chose to trust him first. Sister. Naoki noticed Tsunade and waved. Natsuki, come here. Tsunade nodded. Naoki's mouth twitched. She's sought out Natsuki more times recently than she's sought me out. Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki walked up to her. He slightly raised his head and his eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Already quite well endowed, under her crossed arms, they seemed ready to burst out. Teacher just held a Jonin meeting. Tsunade recounted what had happened. I have no objections. Natsuki nodded. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen was using his red healing potion to win people over, as long as the money reached his hands, it was fine. This list is for you. Tsunade produced a scroll. It contains the names of Jonin who need to purchase additional red healing potions. So fast? Didn't they just receive 3 vials? Natsuki asked curiously. For Jonin executing dangerous missions, 3 vials aren't enough. Tsunade explained. These are all Jonin who will be going out on missions recently. I see. Natsuki opened the scroll and immediately spotted Hitaki Sakumo. His thoughts stirred. This might be an opportunity to project the white light chakra saber. Who will deliver the potions? Natsuki put away the scroll. No need to deliver them. Just notify them to pick them up at Konoha Hospital. Tsunade replied. Natsuki nodded. If they came to pick them up themselves, he could naturally take the opportunity to meet Hitaki Sakumo. Naoki, Natsuki, and I are going to Konoha Hospital. Tsunade informed Naoki and left with Natsuki. Time slowly passed. The Jonin who purchased additional potions successively came to pick up their red healing potions. In the new week, Natsuki finally met Konoha's White Fang Hitaki Sakumo. Unlike the legends of him being a mass murderer, he wore a smile and looked very approachable. His most striking feature was his white hair. Lord Sakumo, hello. I am Natsuki. Natsuki brought out his prepared excuse. I've heard of your great name for a long time, especially your kenjutsu. It's very formidable. So you are Orochimaru's student? Sakumo said with a hearty tone. I've also heard your name for a long time. You are one of Konoha's top geniuses. I have an unreasonable request. Natsuki continued. I would like to see your white light chakra saber. No problem. Sakumo unhesitatingly took the white light chakra saber off his back and handed it over. It was a chakra short sword, entirely snow-white, resembling the fang of some giant beast. Natsuki grasped it. After infusing his chakra, the blade instantly lit up, emitting a faint white glow. It seemed to be made of some special material, but its hardness was somewhat lacking. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been broken while in Hitaki Kakashi's hands. Natsuki had an unlock condition to break a famous ninja tool in combat, but obviously, he couldn't just go and break the white light chakra saber. First, he couldn't beat Sakumo. Second, they were both Konoha ninjas. Doing so would be inappropriate. Thank you. Natsuki returned the blade and praised, it is indeed a good sword. You flatter me. Sakumo smiled and put it away. Because he had to go on a mission, he didn't stay long, leaving after taking his red healing potions. Natsuki watched him leave, feeling a sense of regret. In the original story, Hitaki Sakumo had chosen to commit suicide because a failed mission caused significant losses. Of course, it wasn't this mission. According to the timeline, that event wouldn't happen for several years. March arrived as expected. Class 3A faced their final exams for the year. After the exams, they would all advance to the 4th year. On the Ninja Academy playground, the crowd let out waves of exclamation. Because Namikaze Minato had instantly defeated Onodera. As 4th place in Class 3A, Onodera's strength wasn't bad. In the 1st and 2nd years, he could still exchange blows with Minato. But Minato had improved too fast. Onodera couldn't even last 3 rounds against him now. Of course, it wasn't just Minato. Natsuki was the same. Geniuses were like that. Not only did they show talent early on, but they also capitalized on that talent at an extremely fast pace. Onodera had only achieved half of that. He couldn't be considered a true genius. Minato left the field with a calm face. Defeating Onodera didn't cause a ripple in his heart. His biggest rival was Natsuki. Although he knew he couldn't win, only by fighting could he clearly understand the gap between them and gather intel. 3rd round, 7th match, Natsuki vs Namikaze Minato. Ishida Yu announced loudly. Natsuki, do your best. Kushina clenched her small fists and waved. Minato smiled helplessly. He was clearly the one who needed encouragement. Minato stepped onto the field and was suddenly taken aback. He saw Natsuki extend his hand. A bow appeared before him. Fighting with a bow. Minato was somewhat baffled. After all, a bow's disadvantages were too obvious. Minato didn't think much. He raised both hands. 6 kunai flew toward Natsuki's vital spots like venomous snakes. Natsuki quickly drew and shot. Although his speed was fast enough, he only managed to shoot 4 arrows. Seeing the remaining 2 kunai about to hit him, he grabbed the bow and swung it fiercely. Water breathing, first form water surface slash. The bow acted like a sword, carrying a stream of water, deflecting the 2 kunai. What kind of kenjutsu is this? Minato's pupils contracted slightly. He couldn't help but show astonishment. He had never seen water breathing before. This is a kenjutsu I created. Water breathing. Natsuki smiled. He had obtained many character templates, exposing all of them was impossible. He only planned to reveal a few commonly used ones. Moreover, water breathing had already been exposed to Tsunade and the others. He had even taught it to Noeki. Minato was instantly speechless. If it were ordinary kenjutsu, he could understand. But this was clearly water release combined with kenjutsu and taijutsu. Why would someone create ninjutsu faster than they could learn it? Minato suppressed his emotions and immediately formed hand seals. Wind release, vacuum sphere. A series of bullet-like wind spheres shot out rapidly. Water breathing, 3rd form flowing dance. Natsuki used the bow as a sword, water flowing around him. He swung rapidly, striking from different directions. Muffled sounds rang out continuously. He actually sliced through all the wind spheres. Minato grew even more silent. He didn't hesitate anymore. He threw a shuriken. The shuriken trembled in the air and transformed into countless shuriken. Densely packed like dark clouds bearing down on a city, chilling to behold. This was the shuriken shadow clone jutsu. Water release, hiding in mist technique. Natsuki clapped his hands. A large amount of fog permeated the air. After a month of learning, he had already mastered both the hiding in mist technique and the hell viewing technique. First, because he used shadow clone jutsu. Second, because both techniques were only D rank and not difficult. By learning them, he had also unlocked ability 2 and ability 3 of the smoker template. What ninjutsu is this now? Minato immediately showed vigilance. He quickly retreated, but the fog spread too fast, enveloping him instantly. Right at that moment, smoke surged, condensing into the shape of a white snake and trapping him. You lost, Minato. Natsuki walked up to him and smiled. Although the shuriken shadow clone jutsu possessed massive power, it had a drawback: it was a physical attack. Minato wanted to say something but stopped. What was going on? After a semester of hard work, why had the gap between him and Natsuki widened again? Kumigakure. Reikage building. The 3rd Reikage looked at the red healing potion on his desk with a solemn expression. My apologies, Lord Reikage. Dode bowed slightly. The medical ninjas in the entire village have researched for half a month but still cannot replicate this red healing potion. After many Konoha jonin used the red healing potion in combat, ninja villages like Kumigakure had naturally taken notice. And to obtain this vial, Kumigakure had specifically set a trap, paying a huge price. Send more ninjas to Konoha. The third Raikage said in a deep voice. Activate all sleeper agents. We must find out who created the red healing potion. Yes, Lord Raikage. Dode responded immediately. Both he and the third Raikage knew very well that this red healing potion would play a huge role on the battlefield. For Kumagakure, which had always kept a covetous eye on Konoha, this was very bad news. Chapter 64, Kairin's Mother. This ninjutsu is called White Snake, modified from the water release, hiding in mist technique. Natsuki dispersed the smoke and explained. It's very powerful. Minato sighed. Once I was entangled, I couldn't move at all. Speaking of this, he felt an even greater urgency for the Flying Thunder God technique. If he could learn it, he could easily escape the White Snake. Kirigakure's silent killing technique is too difficult, so I could only modify the hiding in mist technique. Natsuki smiled. Minato's mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. Do you think modifying ninjutsu is easy? After chatting for a bit, the two left the field. The students of Class 3A weren't surprised by the result. They were all discussing the hiding in mist technique Natsuki had used. Natsuki gave them the feeling of opening a blind box. No one knew what new ninjutsu he would reveal next. The final exams continued. After the 3 rounds of sparring ended, Ishida Yu announced the final rankings. First place was naturally Natsuki. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Heroic Spirit Emiya Template Ability 2, Independent Action. A line of text appeared before Natsuki's eyes. He nodded slightly. Independent Action was an ability that was useless normally but extremely useful in life and death situations. Of course, Natsuki hoped he would never have to use it. Are you guys free tomorrow? Kushina suddenly remembered something. Tomorrow, members of the Uzumaki clan are arriving. You want us to go with you to welcome them? Natsuki understood. That's not the main purpose. Kushina smiled. I want to introduce you to some friends. I see. Natsuki nodded. I'll go with you. He was very curious if there were any familiar faces among the arriving Uzumaki clan members. I'll go too. Minato smiled. It's a holiday tomorrow anyway. I have nothing urgent to do. Then it's settled. Kushina said happily. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., we'll meet at the village entrance. After chatting, the 3 parted ways, each going to their respective teachers for training. The next day, Natsuki, Minato, and Kushina arrived at Konoha's entrance on time. Over here. Seeing them, Naoki waved and shouted. With a group of Uzumaki clan members arriving, it was naturally impossible for no one to welcome them. The Konoha ninja welcoming them was none other than Tsunade. Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki walked up and greeted her. Kushina and Minato followed closely behind. Natsuki, you came just in time. I have something to discuss with you. After speaking, Tsunade moved to the side. Natsuki hurried after her. So mysterious. Naoki couldn't help but complain. I always feel like they're hiding something from me. I think so too. Kushina agreed. Natsuki. Tsunade stopped. For the time being, I will be the one making the red healing potion. It seems other ninja villages have set their sights on it. Natsuki was slightly taken aback but guessed the reason. It wasn't hard to guess. The red healing potion's effect was too good. Other ninja villages definitely wouldn't sit back and watch. Yes. Recently, some jonin on missions were ambushed by other ninja villages. Tsunade nodded. Under duress, information regarding the red healing potion will be leaked. Although jonin were powerful, facing several times their number of enemy jonin, there was little they could do. But they'll probably stop such actions soon. Tsunade added. Because they have no way to replicate the red healing potion. The key to the red healing potion was Hashirama cells. Other ninja villages didn't have Hashirama cells, so they were destined to be unable to replicate it. Then the next thing they can do is search for the inventor within Konoha. Natsuki said thoughtfully. Not just the inventor but also the producer. Tsunade shook her head. Natsuki was slightly taken aback, then realized. They would suspect Tsunade was the inventor. But since she was hard to deal with, they would definitely look for other producers. You don't need to worry too much. They definitely won't think the inventor is an 8-year-old child. Tsunade rubbed his head. The Uzumaki clan is almost here. Let's go back. What did you guys talk about? Before they even got close, Naoki asked impatiently. A secret. Tsunade chuckled. Noeka's face was instantly full of question marks. Are you really my biological sister? They're here. Right at that moment, Kushina shouted excitedly. Natsuki looked up and saw a group of red-haired ninjas and children walking toward them. Clan head Keisuke, welcome. Tsunade went up to greet them. Grandma Mito has difficulty getting around, so she asked me to welcome you. Understandable. Keisuke nodded. He was one of the few who knew Uzumaki Mito was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Kushina. Many children were waving at her. Chiki. Kushina called out their names and ran over. Natsuki and Minato followed behind. These are two of my classmates and also my new good friends. After pleasantries, Kushina introduced Natsuki and Minato. While responding, Natsuki looked at the little girl named Uzumaki K. Because she looked somewhat similar to Karin. In the original story, after the Uzumaki clan was annihilated, Karin's mother had fled to Kusagakur. But the Kusagakur ninjas treated her as a mobile blood bag. She lived a miserable life and eventually died from excessive blood loss. Karin's fate was similar to her mother's, but fortunately, she was chosen by Orochimaru and taken away from Kusagakur. Natsuki didn't know if Uzumaki K was Karin's mother. But regardless, having come to Konoha, it was impossible for her to be as miserable as in the original story. He could be considered to have done a good deed. Holidays always pass quickly. New semester, new class, new classmates. On the first day of school, Class 4A welcomed 5 transfer students. They all came from the Uzumaki clan. This included Kushina's 2 good friends Uzumaki K and Uzumaki Chiki. Of course, the Uzumaki clan had brought more than 5 children. They were assigned to different grades based on age. For Natsuki, the addition of new classmates made no difference. However, Onodera and the others took detours when they saw them, afraid that Kushina would lead them to bully him. But given Kushina's personality, she naturally wouldn't act like a Konoha troublemaker. Chapter 65, The Actions of Kumigakure Spies. May. Orochimaru's residence. Natsuki stood in a corner, or more accurately, floated above the ground. Because his legs had turned into smoke, he was attempting to develop the white launcher used by Smoker. The principle wasn't difficult, shooting smoke to create explosive recoil for rapid movement and flight. Not far from him, Noeka stood in place. Although he wasn't moving, his breathing was more rapid than usual. After training for so long, he had basically mastered water breathing. Right at that moment, a knock sounded on the door. Natsuki turned toward the entrance. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade walked in. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. Something major has probably happened. Because the 3 of them rarely gathered together. They all had their own business. Konoha just concluded negotiations with Kirigakure. Tsunade produced a scroll. I kept the great sword Samehada. Kirigakure was actually willing to give up Samehada. Noeki asked in surprise. The great sword Samehada's value cannot compare to Sukazan Fukyuki and Kushimaru Kuriareri. Tsunade replied. Besides, we had both reason and the upper hand. Kirigakure couldn't do anything about us. Kirigakure's strength is much weaker than ours. Jiraiya laughed. They wouldn't dare start a war. Natsuki nodded slightly. In the original story, Kirigakure indeed had not participated in the Second Shinobi World War. Noeki. Tsunade looked at him. This great sword Samehada is intended for you and Kushina. Then ask Kushina first. Noeki said carelessly. If she doesn't want it, give it to me. He didn't really need Samehada. After all, he was walking the path of Senju Tobirama's water release. Tsunade nodded. Now Konoha also has trouble. Jiraiya changed the subject. Iwagakure has withdrawn from the land of rain. Omegakure and Tsunagakure have suddenly expanded the scale of the war. Konoha received intel that Tsunagakure has deployed Cho. Tsunade said gravely. That woman Cho is not simple. She is the #1 puppet master in the ninja world, and her level in using poison is no less than mine. Cho also brought along Tsunagakure's puppet brigade. Jiraiya added. Puppet masters were a Tsunagakure specialty ninjas who could manipulate puppets. Top puppet masters like Cho could control 10 puppets simultaneously. Facing a puppet master, a one-on-one fight would quickly become one-on-many. Teacher has dispatched Orochimaru and me to the land of rain to prevent this war from spreading to the land of fire. Jiraiya continued. Previously, Hitaki Sakumo had been in charge, but his talent lay in assassination, not commanding large-scale wars. Orochimaru was different. He could be considered an all-rounder. As for Jiraiya, his main responsibility was intelligence gathering. "I want to go too," Naoki immediately said. "Why are you joining the fun?" Tsunade's gaze darkened. "I'm already in 6th year. I've long learned everything at the Ninja Academy and can graduate at any time," Naoki said confidently. "Moreover, with my current strength, I can definitely participate in the Chunin exams." "You're acting this high profile with only Chunin strength?" Tsunade glared at him. "Look at Natsuki. His strength is much greater than yours, yet he hasn't said he's rushing to the battlefield." Naoki's expression stiffened. He couldn't retort. Natsuki's thoughts stirred. The original story only mentioned that Naoki died at 12, but it didn't say when he graduated. Considering his strength and the Second Shinobi World War situation, he had most likely applied for early graduation. In other words, there was a high probability he had followed Orochimaru to the battlefield in the Land of Rain this time and then died in an explosive tag trap. "Natsuki, when do you plan to graduate?" Orochimaru suddenly asked. "I plan to graduate next year." Natsuki considered. He currently had many abilities that weren't unlocked yet. There was no need to rush to the battlefield. Besides, the Second Shinobi World War had just begun. Even if he went to the Land of Rain, he wouldn't be able to participate in battles immediately. When things got intense, he and Naoki would naturally join the war with Orochimaru. "I really don't understand your thinking," Naoki sighed. "But next year is fine too. We can graduate together." He was currently in 6th year and would officially graduate next March. "Then we'll talk about it after you graduate next year." Tsunade finalized the decision. "After I go to the Land of Rain, you'll train with Tsunade," Orochimaru reminded them. "Yes, teacher." Natsuki immediately responded. "I'll also have Minato come train with you." Jiraiya had the same plan as Orochimaru and Tsunade. He didn't intend to take Minato to the battlefield. "Continue your training." Having finished their discussion, Tsunade and Jiraiya turned to leave. "Teacher." Natsuki suddenly remembered something. "Can I study your sword for a bit?" Orochimaru was slightly taken aback, then handed over the Kusanagi sword. "Thank you, teacher." Natsuki took it. His purpose for studying the Kusanagi sword was naturally to project it. After all, who knew how long Orochimaru would be away in the Land of Rain? There is more than one Kusanagi sword. Orochimaru looked at him. "If I have the chance to find a second one, I'll give it to you." "Thank you, teacher." Natsuki's eyes lit up. He didn't refuse. Moreover, theoretically, these two Kusanagi swords would be different, so he could project a Kusanagi sword again. Not long after, Minato also appeared before him and Naoki. He had been sent over by Jiraiya. Time was tight. Jiraiya and Orochimaru would set off for the Land of Rain tomorrow. "Do you think the three of us will become teammates?" During a break, Naoki stroked his chin. "Hard to say," Natsuki said casually. "Lord Jiraiya probably won't let his student team up with us." "That is indeed a problem," Naoki agreed. "I think there's a high probability your teammate will be Kushina." Minato considered. "Not necessarily." Naoki knew Kushina's status was special. "It all depends on the village's arrangements. But it doesn't matter. Whether we're teammates or not, we can always train and practice together," Natsuki said. At a certain residence in Konoha, it's been confirmed that the inventor of the red healing potion is Tsunade. No other producer has been found. It really is her. This is going to be difficult. Should we give up? Report this matter to Lord Raikage and let him decide. Trying to capture or kill Tsunade in Konoha is too difficult. Understood. There's one more thing. Recently, many Uzumaki clan members have arrived in Konoha. Should we capture a special one to take back to the village? I think we can. Last time, our plan to annihilate the Uzumaki clan failed because of Konoha. We need to make up for our mistakes this time. The conversation between the two Kumigakure ninjas ended there. The residents returned to tranquility. Chapter 66, Kushina kidnapped. Early the next morning, Natsuki and Yakushi Nono arrived at the entrance of Konoha. A large number of ninjas were already standing in orderly formation before the village entrance, waiting for the order to depart. Needless to say, they were the ninjas Konoha was sending to the Land of Rain. Natsuki scanned the area and estimated there were hundreds of people. It seemed the battle situation in the Land of Rain was even more intense than he had imagined. Right at that moment, his gaze sharpened. He spotted a girl with long, straight black hair in the crowd, Uchiha Mikoto. Now, she had grown into a graceful and elegant young woman. Very eye-catching. Natsuki considered, then waved at her. His action attracted the attention of many people. Because he was currently very famous in Konoha, it was no exaggeration to call him the cream of the crop of the future generation. Mikoto was slightly taken aback. Somewhat surprised. But she still walked over. Natsuki, long time no see. A gentle smile appeared on her face. This smile completely shattered her previously aloof image. Senior Mikoto, if I had known you were going to the Land of Rain, I definitely would have treated you to a meal in advance to see you off. Natsuki said with some regret. It'll be the same if you treat me when I get back. Mikoto said softly. Then it's a deal. Come find me after you return. Natsuki nodded. Mikoto responded with a smile. Because they were about to depart, she exchanged a few more words with Natsuki, then returned to the formation. Natsuki and Nono met up with Noeki and the others, arriving before Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Everything that needed to be said had already been said yesterday. Orochimaru and Jiraiya didn't say much, just exchanged greetings and led their teams out of Konoha. The village has caught quite a few spies recently. Tsunade reminded them. Although it won't affect you directly, try not to go to secluded places during this period. Yes, Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki knew the purpose of these spies was to find the inventor of the red healing potion. Fortunately, Tsunade had stepped forward to confuse the public for him. Why are there suddenly so many spies? Noeki asked, confused. It shows that there are undercurrents surging in the ninja world right now. The situation is very chaotic. Tsunade said casually. Natsuki's thoughts suddenly stirred. The kidnapping of Uzumaki Kushina. Could it happen earlier than expected? The main reason he thought so was due to two factors. First, Kumigakure's attack on the Uzumaki clan had failed because of Konoha. Second, there were currently many Uzumaki clan members in Konoha. Natsuki couldn't help but narrow his eyes. There was definitely a certain possibility. Although Kushina wasn't kidnapped during this time period in the original story, his appearance had already changed many things. The butterfly effect might manifest in this matter as well. Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki spoke up. If there are spies from Kumigakure and Kirigakure, would they make a move against Kushina and the others? Hearing this, Tsunade frowned and began to ponder. I think it's possible. Noeki punched his palm. After all, Konoha ruined their plans previously. Natsuki makes sense. Tsunade nodded. I'll notify teacher later and have him send ANBU to protect Kushina and the others. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Kushina said immediately. Noeki, here is the great sword Samehada for you. Tsunade produced a scroll and handed it over. Kushina doesn't want it. Noeki took the scroll. It's too ugly. Kushina said without hiding her feelings. That does sound like a girl's reason. Noeki didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm different. As long as it can make me stronger, I can accept it no matter how ugly it is. You guys go to school. Tsunade paused. I'll come pick you up when school ends at noon. Whether it was Noeki, Natsuki, or Kushina, they all only attended school for half a day now, using the remaining half for training. But currently, Natsuki mostly sent his shadow clone to attend school. Kushina. After Tsunade left, Natsuki asked with a smile. Do you like cats? Why do you ask? Kushina was taken aback. Cats are quite cute, especially your cat. Since you like them, help me take care of it for a while. Natsuki then used the summoning jutsu and summoned the ninja cat Shirayuki. Really? Kushina cheered and hugged Shirayuki in her arms. You're already hugging it. How could I lie to you? Natsuki asked in return. Natsuki, are you afraid something might happen to Kushina, so you're having Shirayuki follow her? Noeki asked, struck by sudden insight. That's part of the intention. Natsuki admitted. Besides Shirayuki, he also planned to have the Kurobane follow Kushina in secret. First, because he didn't want anything to happen to her. Second, because the unlock condition for ability 3 of the Uzumaki Naruto template was to prevent Kumigakure from kidnapping Kushina. Although Natsuki didn't know if Kumigakure would attempt it, it was better to be safe than sorry. Kushina subconsciously raised her head. Reminded by Naoki, she finally understood why Natsuki suddenly wanted her to help take care of the cat. "Why are you looking at me with those eyes?" Natsuki smiled. "And nothing." Kushina turned her head away, her face slightly red. "Class is about to start." Naoki couldn't stand this atmosphere and reminded them loudly. Minato, on the other hand, had a calm expression. He had previously had some affection for Kushina, but he had long given up. After all, he could tell she liked Natsuki more. Furthermore, Natsuki was his good friend and was better than him in every aspect. He felt he didn't have the strength to compete, so he now maintained a normal attitude. "Let's go." Natsuki smiled. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Over the past half month, nothing major happened in Konoha, and no members of the Uzumaki clan were kidnapped. But to be safe, Natsuki still didn't recall Kurobane or Shirayuki. Anyway, even if they returned, they wouldn't be of much use for the time being. It was better to have them follow Kushina. Weekend. After eating breakfast, Kushina said goodbye to Uzumaki Mito and headed to Orochimaru's residence. Just as she walked out of the Senju clan compound, she bumped right into Natsuki and Minato. "Natsuki." A look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. But the ninja cat Shirayuki, following far behind her, suddenly stopped in its tracks. It sensed something was wrong. This Natsuki didn't seem to be its boss. "Kushina." Natsuki walked up to her. "Why are you guys?" Before she could finish, Natsuki raised his hand and knocked her unconscious. Without a word, he grabbed her shoulder and fled at extreme speed. Minato followed closely behind. "Stop!" Two Konoha ANBU ninjas appeared. But just as they were about to give chase, two more ninjas popped out from the surroundings and blocked their path. A battle unfolded. The two people disguised as Natsuki and Minato were Kumigakure ninjas. Half a month ago, they had transmitted the red healing potion and Uzumaki clan intel back to Kumigakure. Not long after, they received a reply. "Temporarily abandon the red healing potion. Capture a member of the Uzumaki clan to bring back." They observed for a long time and finally determined their target to be Uzumaki Kushina. First, because the chakra in her body was very special. Second, because she was very close to Tsunade. Chapter 67, Natsuki's Heroic Rescue, Part 2. Orochimaru's residence. Natsuki, Minato, and Naoki were training. Tsunade stood not far away, watching them and occasionally offering guidance. But she was only a shadow clone. Tsunade's real body was at Konoha Hospital. She had a lot of work to do. Using a shadow clone to guide Natsuki and the others was sufficient. "This is bad." A sudden voice rang out. Something happened. "Boss, meow." A snow-white cat rushed into the courtyard like a flash of white light. "Shirayuki, did something happen to Kushina?" Seeing Shirayuki, Natsuki's expression changed. Tsunade and the others also had an ominous premonition. "She was taken away, meow." Shirayuki quickly recounted what had just happened. "This is a premeditated kidnapping." Tsunade immediately made a judgment. First, two ninjas disguised as Natsuki and Minato had approached Kushina. Then, two ninjas held off the Konoha ANBU. No matter how you looked at it, they came prepared. "Teacher Tsunade, I'll go after them," Natsuki said urgently. Besides Shirayuki, Kurobane is also keeping an eye on Kushina. "You did very well." Hearing this, Tsunade felt slightly relieved. She knew Kurobane was a crow. Right now, the Kumigakure spies were busy escaping Konoha. They might not notice a crow tracking them from the sky. But it's too dangerous for you to go after them alone, Tsunade added. "Judging from the current situation, their numbers are unknown. It's highly likely there are more than 4 people. I'll go too." Naoki gripped the great sword Samehada. "You go to Konoha Hospital immediately and notify my real body. Minato, hurry to the Hokage building and report this to teacher." Tsunade acted decisively, making arrangements in an instant. "Natsuki and I will go after them first. We can't lose their trail." Although Naoki and Minato also wanted to go together, they knew this wasn't the time to be willful. They split up and set off immediately. "Teacher Tsunade, I'll go to a high vantage point to assess the situation." After speaking, Natsuki leaped up onto a roof. Clairvoyance. His eyes instantly underwent a slight change. Everything in the surroundings came into full view. Looking down from above, Natsuki quickly spotted his summoning beast, Kurobane. He rushed toward it. What did you find? Tsunade followed behind. I saw Kurobane. Natsuki replied. Tsunade was somewhat surprised. She hadn't even spotted Kurobane yet, but Natsuki had already found it. But the situation was urgent. She didn't think much of it. Their speed within Konoha isn't particularly fast. We must catch up quickly. Once they leave the village, they'll definitely speed up. Natsuki reminded her. I'm going to accelerate, Teacher Tsunade. After speaking, he used weight-type magic, gravity mitigation and reinforcement magecraft. Although his speed increased significantly, it still wasn't fast enough for Tsunade. Even if she was just a shadow clone. The two sped along and finally caught up at the edge of Konoha. Teacher Tsunade, are there any other Kumigakure ninjas nearby? Natsuki asked calmly. I didn't sense any. Tsunade shook her head. It seems there are only 4 Kumigakure Jonin involved in this kidnapping. Natsuki said thoughtfully. 4 Kumigakure Jonin might seem like a small number, but it was actually quite a lot. Infiltrating Konoha is no simple task. After speaking, Tsunade snorted coldly. 4 Jonin infiltrated and weren't discovered. They truly failed in their duties. Teacher Tsunade, there are only 2 Kumigakure Jonin here. We can attack directly. Natsuki suggested seriously. Aren't we waiting for my real body? Tsunade hesitated. Delays may bring trouble. We can't let them leave the village. Natsuki said gravely. Teacher Tsunade, you know my strength. I killed Akabino Jinin, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Then let's do it. Tsunade was not one to drag things out. She immediately agreed. Shadow Assassin. Natsuki's body had already disappeared. A shadow rapidly approached the 2 Kumigakure Jonin. After getting close, Natsuki didn't attack directly, he immediately cast water release, hiding in mist technique. As the fog permeated the air, his entire body also transformed into smoke. What's going on? The young Kumigakure ninja on the left asked, confused. Why did a thick fog suddenly appear? No, this is the hiding in mist technique. The middle-aged Kumigakure ninja on the right immediately warned. Be careful. There must be someone in the fog. But in the next second, they realized something was wrong. A massive amount of smoke enveloped them, rendering them unable to move. This isn't the hiding in mist technique. The middle-aged Kumigakure ninja suddenly roared. In an instant, dazzling lightning spread out with him at the center. The lightning surged into the fog, causing it to dim. It's working. Seeing this, the young Kumigakure ninja couldn't help but look delighted. He didn't have the same level of strength as the middle-aged ninja, but he was still able to release lightning release chakra after being trapped. Die! Tsunade suddenly appeared. She clenched her fist and punched the middle-aged Kumigakure ninja. The immense force caused the spot she hit to cave in. The lightning on the middle-aged ninja dissipated. He lost consciousness. Tsunade. Seeing her, the young Kumigakure ninja was terrified out of his wits. Tsunade couldn't be bothered to talk to him. She clenched her fist again. But she quickly released it. Natsuki appeared behind the young Kumigakure ninja. Gripping the sword of the Thunder God, he swung. Water breathing, first form water surface slash. The sword of the Thunder God, enveloped in water flow, easily severed the young Kumigakure ninja's head. Blood splattered like a fountain. Natsuki stepped back and dispelled the hiding in mist technique and white smoke bomb. That was easier than I imagined. Tsunade sighed. Although your strength isn't equal to a Jonin, your self-created ninjutsu are numerous and useful. Even a Jonin can hardly escape. Natsuki didn't pay attention to her praise. He immediately walked up to the unconscious Kushina. He took out a vial of red healing potion and moved to pour it down her throat. She's just unconscious. Tsunade reached out to stop him. There's no need to waste a red healing potion. A surge of green chakra flowed from her palm and covered Kushina. A moment later, Kushina suddenly opened her eyes. Seeing Natsuki in front of her, she instinctively shrank back. Obviously, her memory was still stuck at the moment before she was knocked out. Kushina, I'm the real Natsuki. Natsuki hurriedly explained. The ones who disguised themselves as Minato and me were Kumigakure Jonin. They've already been dealt with by teacher Tsunade and me. Kushina subconsciously looked at the corpse on the ground. She instantly believed Natsuki's words. Natsuki. Kushina sat up and hugged him tightly. It's okay now. Don't be afraid. Natsuki hugged her petite body, gently stroking her red hair. The sound of tearing air rang out. Tsunade's real body and a group of ANBU ninjas arrived. Chapter 68, Kirito Template. Is it over? Tsunade thought as she dispelled her shadow clone. A flood of memories returned, letting her know the cause and effect. It had to be said Natsuki's performance was practically perfect. Tsunade had originally thought this rescue operation would be extremely dangerous because Kumigakure had made extensive preparations. This could be seen from how they captured Kushina right in front of Konoha's ANBU. The reason this rescue operation was so simple was entirely due to Natsuki. Although her shadow clone had also participated, it only played a supporting role. It was Natsuki who immediately pinpointed Kushina's location through Kurobane. It was also him who decisively carried out the rescue. Most importantly, he had sufficient strength. Shadow space combined with the modified hiding in mist technique allowed him and her shadow clone to easily defeat those two Kumigakure Jonin. Tsunade felt that even a Jonin stronger than Natsuki would find it hard to do it so easily. Right at that moment, Naoki and Minato arrived belatedly. Their strength was inferior to Tsunade and the ANBU ninjas, so their speed was naturally slower. It's resolved this quickly. Naoki panted. What a pity I couldn't help. As long as Kushina is fine. Minato looked at Natsuki and Kushina hugging each other. He felt a bit strange. But he quickly regained his calm. Take these two Kumigakure Jonin back first to extract intel. Tsunade looked at the group of ANBU ninjas. Make sure to find out all the Kumigakure spies. Yes, Lady Tsunade. The ANBU immediately left with the dead Kumigakure Jonin. Kushina. Tsunade joked. How long are you going to hug him? Kushina instinctively pushed Natsuki away. She lowered her head. A blush uncontrollably appeared on her face. Fortunately, it was a false alarm this time. Tsunade rubbed her head. Konoha also got a blessing in disguise, being able to eradicate all Kumigakure spies in one fell swoop. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Uzumaki Naruto Template Ability 2, Multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. Natsuki's spirit jolted as a massive amount of information flooded his mind. The multiple shadow clone jutsu was actually very similar to the shadow clone jutsu, but it removed the limit on the number of clones. Theoretically, as long as one had enough chakra, they could create countless shadow clones. For example, Uzumaki Naruto. In every battle, he used the multiple shadow clone jutsu, creating thousands of shadow clones to implement his human wave tactics. For a normal ninja, creating more than 20 shadow clones at once could lead to death from chakra exhaustion. Natsuki now had the chakra of 4 Kakashis, so creating 20 shadow clones wouldn't kill him. But upon dispelling them, the return of memories, experience, fatigue, and various injuries would likely be unbearable. In short, he should try not to create too many shadow clones. Especially when using them for training, he needed to be extremely cautious. Natsuki estimated he could create at most 5 shadow clones for training. Any more would be too painful. However, 5 shadow clones were already enough. With the unlocking of Ability 2, the Uzumaki Naruto template was completely integrated. You have awakened the Kirigaya Kazuto template. A sudden line of text appeared before Natsuki's eyes. He couldn't help but be stunned. The Kirito template? A starburst stream meme immediately popped into his mind. Natsuki stroked his chin. Why did I awaken the Kirigaya Kazuto template? Undoubtedly, it was related to saving Kushina. In Sword Art Online, Kirigaya Kazuto had also gone to save the captured Asuna. In this regard, their actions were similar. Natsuki pondered as he looked at his newly acquired template. Name, Kirigaya Kazuto. Period, Fairy Dance Arc. World, Sword Art Online. Rank, A rank. Ability 1, Night Vision Unlocked Effect, A Spriggan racial trait. Allows clear vision even in completely dark environments. Ability 2, Transcendent Reaction Speed Locked Effect, only the player with the fastest reaction speed can use dual blades skills. Unlock condition, dodge 80% of attacks in a battle against 3 Takubitsu Jonin or Jonin. Ability 3, Double Circular Locked Effect, unleash a slash with twin swords while dashing forward. Unlock condition, possess a second sword or blade. Ability 4, Starburst Stream Locked Effect, unleash a 16-hit combo using twin swords. Unlock condition, defeat 3 fire release Jonin. Ability 5, the Eclipse Locked Effect, unleash a 27-hit combo using twin swords. Unlock condition, defeat a battlefield commander. Natsuki couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. The Kirigaya Kazuto template was A rank, meaning his level in the Naruto world would be roughly equivalent to a Jonin. Ability 1, Night Vision. Although ninjas could use chakra to enhance their night vision, using chakra made it easy for enemies to detect them. The night vision of the Kirigaya Kazuto template came from a racial trait, meaning it was an innate ability that didn't require chakra. In the future, when Natsuki executed night infiltration missions, he would have a significant advantage. Ability 2, Transcendent Reaction Speed. Natsuki immediately thought of Minato and the Flying Thunder God technique. Reaction speed was undoubtedly one of the prerequisites for learning it. Right now, he was only missing spatial talent. Of course, even if he couldn't learn the Flying Thunder God technique, Transcendent Reaction Speed would be extremely useful in combat. It's just that the unlock condition was somewhat troublesome. It required him to dodge most attacks in a battle against 3 Takubutsu Jonin or Jonin. Dodging attacks was often harder than taking them head-on. The remaining 3 abilities were all from Kirigaya Kazuto's dual blades skills. But not all of them, only 3. However, these 3 were the strongest among the dual blades skills. The unlock condition for ability 3 was the simplest. Orochimaru had previously promised to give him a Kusanagi sword. Moreover, ability 3 only required possessing a second sword or blade. It didn't specify that it had to be a famous one. In other words, Natsuki could just buy any random sword to unlock it. The unlock conditions for ability 4 and ability 5 were the most difficult. The former required defeating 3 fire release Jonin. The latter required defeating a battlefield commander. With Natsuki's current strength, he could defeat a Jonin with a surprise attack. However, there was still a possibility of failure. But defeating a battlefield commander would be a massive test. What was a battlefield commander? For example, Orochimaru, who had been sent to the Land of Rain, was the battlefield commander for Konoha in that theater. In other words, Natsuki would have to defeat a ninja on the level of Hanzo, Orochimaru, or Cho. The only comforting thing was that it didn't explicitly demand a one-on-one victory. However, he wasn't in a rush. To unlock ability 5, he had to participate in the Second Shinobi World War. For Natsuki, that was something for next year. By next year, his strength would have increased significantly again. Chapter 69, The Aftermath and Rewards. Natsuki and Kushina, come with me to the Hokage's office. Tsunade paused. Noeki and Minato, go back and continue your training. Yes, teacher Tsunade. Natsuki nodded and extended his hand toward Kushina. Although somewhat embarrassed, Kushina took his hand and stood up from the ground. Minato and Noeki subconsciously exchanged a glance. They both felt that the Kushina before them was a stranger. She wasn't usually like this. Tsunade led Natsuki and Kushina toward the Hokage building. Upon arriving at the Hokage's office, she pushed the door open and walked in directly. It's good that you're safe. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked Kushina up and down and felt relieved. Although theoretically Konoha didn't lack Nine-Tails Jinchuriki candidates right now, Kushina was the most talented. Whether it was her special chakra or her exceptional ability to learn sealing jutsu, she was unmatched among her peers. With her as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the state would be more stable. No matter which ninja village it was, the most feared thing was a Jinchuriki going berserk. Every rampage inevitably caused massive losses. Fortunately, Konoha's Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Mito, had never gone berserk. Tsunade, tell me the specific situation. Sarutobi Hiruzen explained. This rescue operation was classified as S rank. All participating ninjas will be rewarded according to their merit. Involving a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki candidate and the participation of 4 Kumigakure Jonin, classifying it as S rank was completely justified. Moreover, if Kushina really were captured by Kumigakure, it would affect the relationship between the Uzumaki clan and Konoha. The ANBU and I didn't even get to help. Natsuki rescued Kushina all by himself. Tsunade smiled as she recounted Natsuki's rescue process to Sarutobi Hiruzen. What an unexpected result. Beside his surprise, Sarutobi Hiruzen also felt happy. He chuckled. It seems I no longer need to worry about Konoha's future. These words carried a lot of weight, but Tsunade thought there was no problem with them. She had never seen a genius like Natsuki. In her view, even she, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru at the same age hadn't performed as well as him. I was only able to save Kushina with the help of teacher Tsunade's shadow clone. Natsuki said modestly. There's no need for such pleasantries. Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand. What reward do you want this time? Hearing this, Natsuki fell into thought. He really didn't know what to ask for. He hadn't even grasped the basics of the spirit transformation technique he asked for last time. There was no need to request another S-rank ninjutsu. As for money, he didn't lack it now. It was no exaggeration to say he was richer than Orochimaru and Jiraiya. As for Tsunade, let's not even mention it. Even though she didn't gamble as much as in the original story, she still gambled from time to time, losing most of her money. Lord Hokage. Natsuki's thoughts suddenly stirred. Can I become a contractor of the monkey clan? Speaking of summoning beasts, besides the three great sage regions, there was one that Orochimaru called the strongest summoning beast, and that was Inma. Inma's formidable aspect lay in his adamantine body. He could also transform into the adamantine staff. In the original story, Sarutobi Hiruzen wielding the adamantine staff had many glorious combat achievements. For example, knocking back the nine tails with a single strike of his staff. Of course, Natsuki also had self-awareness. He said he wanted to become a contractor of the monkey clan, not Inma's contractor. In the original story, Inma had a prefix Monkey King, and he also had a son named Inra. This indicated a point: this was a species of summoning beasts, not a single summoning beast. Your train of thought really jumps around, child. Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned for a moment. You don't know staff techniques, so why do you want to become a contractor of the monkey clan? Tsunade also looked at Natsuki. She also couldn't quite understand. I heard the monkey clan is the strongest summoning beast, so I wanted to see for myself. Natsuki scratched his head and said half-truthfully. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't doubt him. In his view, children thought like this, they always liked the strongest. As for who told him, it was most likely Orochimaru. He had said similar things in the past. You are not a ninja of the Sarutobi clan. If you want to become a contractor of the monkey clan, you must get Inma's approval. Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at Tsunade. You should know that even your teachers didn't get his approval. Natsuki was instantly somewhat surprised. He originally thought Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru hadn't become contractors of the monkey clan because they became contractors of the three great sage regions, but now it seemed there was more to it. I want to try. Natsuki's 10 shadows technique required 10 summoning beasts. The monkey clan's strength wasn't bad. Just the adamantine body alone was comparable to a divine weapon. Moreover, Natsuki suspected that the monkey clan could transform not only into the adamantine staff but also into other ninja tools. After all, Nyoi, adamantine, implied the ability to switch forms at will. In the original story, the adamantine staff could freely extend, shrink, grow larger, grow smaller, and even clone itself. Alright then. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't refuse. He nodded. Tomorrow at 9 AM, come find me at the first training ground. Yes, Lord Hokage. Natsuki immediately responded. You may leave. With the matter concluded, Sarutobi Hiruzen dismissed them. Although Kushina had been rescued, as Hokage, he still had many things to do. For example, dealing with the Kumigakure spies. Come with me to see Grandma Mito. Tsunade rubbed Kushina's head. She is quite worried about you. I'm sorry. Kushina said, embarrassed. I was too careless. If she had recognized the disguised Natsuki and Minato, she wouldn't have been captured so easily. What's past is past. You don't need to blame yourself. Tsunade changed the subject. But I have to give you special training to heighten your vigilance. Okay, Lady Tsunade. Kushina didn't refuse. She indeed needed such special training. Natsuki followed Tsunade and Kushina to see Uzumaki Mito and was praised by her again. After the visit, he took the ninja cat Shirayuki to the empty area to find Granny Cat. Shirayuki, long time no see, meow. A group of cats surrounded Shirayuki, asking all sorts of questions. Granny Cat. Natsuki got straight to the point. I want the best ninja sword you have here. Although this ninja sword was for transitional use, he wasn't short on money now. Naturally, he wanted the best. The best ninja sword is also the most expensive ninja sword. Granny Cat reminded him. It's fine. I brought money. Natsuki said confidently. Granny Cat nodded slightly. She was an information broker, so she had some understanding of Natsuki's situation. His izakaya business was booming. He had earned a lot of money. It will be 10 million ryo. Granny Cat held up a finger and explained. A small amount of chakra metal was added to this ninja sword. Chapter 70, Monkey King Inma. Chakra metal had two effects. First, it made ninja tools sharper. Second, it increased the chakra conductivity of ninja tools. Sharpness spoke for itself. Chakra conductivity was somewhat like electrical conductivity, every material was different. Chakra metal had the best chakra conductivity, hence its high price. In the original story, the ninjas who could afford to use chakra metal ninja tools were few and far between. The chakra blades used by Sarutobi Hiruzen's son, Sarutobi Asuma, were exactly chakra metal ninja tools. Natsuki didn't hesitate. He paid for this ninja sword called Nikogiri. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Kirigaya Kazuto Template Ability 3, Double Circular. As expected, it didn't require Nikogiri to be famous to unlock. With the matter concluded, Natsuki called Shirayuki and left the Ninja Cat clan's territory. A new day. Natsuki arrived at the first training ground on time. Before he even got close, he saw a tall figure over 2 meters tall. Obviously, this wasn't Sarutobi Hiruzen but Monkey King Inma. Inma was a monkey covered in silver-white fur, his entire body packed with muscle. He looked very powerful at first glance. Unlike other summoning beasts, he also wore a Konoha forehead protector. Natsuki inexplicably remembered a meme from his past life. Why did Inma want to kill Sarutobi Hiruzen? So you are Natsuki? Inma spoke human language. I am. Natsuki replied. Fight me first. Inma casually threw an iron staff at him. Natsuki caught it. His mouth twitched. If Inma's test was staff techniques, he definitely wouldn't pass. Because he only knew Kenjutsu. Watch out, kid. Inma didn't give him much time to think. He charged. His terrifying strength left shallow footprints on the ground wherever he passed. Water breathing, second form water wheel. Natsuki's breathing became rapid. His body spun in the air. The iron staff, carrying a stream of water, smashed toward Inma from mid-air. Inma didn't dodge or evade. He threw a double punch. Bang! A shockwave exploded in the air. Natsuki was sent flying backward. He hurriedly adjusted his body mid-air and landed safely. Inma didn't take this opportunity to attack, just standing in place, watching him. After he landed, Inma leaped up. Boom! The ground where he stood collapsed. Inma reached mid-air, raised his right leg, and delivered a kick. Reinforcement Magecraft. Natsuki's arms bulged slightly. His strength increased. Water breathing, sixth form whirlpool. Natsuki twisted his body. A stream of water swirled around him like a water dragon. As he swung the staff, the water dragon charged toward Inma. Inma still took it head-on. His adamantine body made him act like the sturdiest ninja tool. A strong wind assailed Natsuki. That terrifying strength reappeared. Natsuki only felt his arms trembling. He uncontrollably retreated backward. And the iron staff carrying the water dragon landed on Inma's body without causing any damage. Natsuki's mind raced. He used the momentum to float backward. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. After halting his body, he transformed into a beam of blade light and crashed into Inma. Inma pressed down with both hands and pinned Natsuki's iron staff. Natsuki swung his left hand without hesitation. He took out the sword of the thunder god from his shadow space. At the same time, he let go of the iron staff and gripped the Nikogiri he bought yesterday. Double circular. Natsuki's two swords erupted with astonishing speed. They sliced through the air, actually creating a sound of tearing wind. The two swords formed a fan shape like lightning. And in the middle of the fan shape was Inma's head. Inma's right hand was currently holding the iron staff. At the critical moment, he instinctively raised his left arm. An ear-piercing sound rang out. The sleeve on Inma's left arm was immediately shredded. The two swords struck heavily on his left arm. His body couldn't help but sway, but that was all. Inma suddenly swung his right arm. The iron staff swept out horizontally. Shadow Assassin. Natsuki slipped into the shadows, evading this staff strike. That's enough. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was watching from the sidelines, spoke up. Hearing this, Inma put away the iron staff. Natsuki breathed a sigh of relief and dispelled Shadow Assassin. Fighting up to this point, he could be considered to have exhausted his methods. But due to Inma's adamantine body, none of his attacks were effective. If they continued fighting, he could only resort to cheating using Shadow Assassin and the Logia-type Plume fruit. Inma was obviously a physical-type summoning beast. Natsuki couldn't hurt him, and Inma couldn't hit Natsuki either. Inma, what do you think? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with a chuckle. He was very satisfied with Natsuki. To have such strength at 9 years old, it would be hard to find a second person in the entire history of Konoha. And has he already started researching the dual blades style? Good kenjutsu, but he doesn't know staff techniques. Inma evaluated. He can become a contractor of the monkey clan, but he cannot become my contractor. Natsuki understood immediately. Inma's meaning was very simple. Except for him, anyone in the monkey clan could be summoned. I have no objections. Natsuki said immediately. As the Monkey King, Inma naturally had his pride. Coupled with the fact that Natsuki didn't know staff techniques and couldn't bring out his full strength, it was understandable that he didn't want to be summoned. Fortunately, Inma didn't completely shut the door. Theoretically, as long as Natsuki learned staff techniques, Inma might still accept being summoned. Natsuki couldn't help but fall into thought. In anime, which characters use a staff as a weapon? Kiyaru? Ahem. Natsuki hurriedly expelled the strange images from his head. Natsuki, sign your name here. Sarutobi Hiruzen took out a scroll and reminded him. This is the summoning contract scroll for the Monkey Clan. Yes, Lord Hokage. Natsuki took a pen from his shadow space and wrote his name on it. Next to his name were Sarutobi Hiruzen and Sarutobi Shinoshuke. The latter was undoubtedly Sarutobi Hiruzen's eldest son Konohamaru's father. In the original story, his name had actually never been mentioned, only that he was an ANBU ninja. Let's go. I'll take you to the Monkey Clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen put away the scroll. You can choose one to be your regular summoning beast. Theoretically, after becoming a contractor of the Monkey Clan, one could summon all the monkeys. But summoning beasts in the ninja world had intelligence and emotions. Choosing one summoning beast as a regular partner allowed for better synergy and brought out its strength. For example, after Uchiha Sasuke became a contractor of Ryokai Cave, he chose Aoda as his regular summoning beast. Lord Hokage, I'm not very familiar with the Monkey Clan. Natsuki thought for a moment. Could you recommend one? Preferably one with the ability to transform into a sword or blade. Due to the influence of the Sarutobi clan, most of the Monkey Clan are more adept at transforming into the adamantine staff. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered. But there are some with the ability to transform into swords and blades. I can recommend one to you. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Natsuki followed him and soon met a monkey named Insei. When the monkey Insei is summoned using the 10 Shadows technique, its hardness is permanently increased by 30%. Perhaps because Sarutobi Hiruzen and Inma were present, Insei agreed very readily. Natsuki also unlocked Insei as his summoning beast enhancement. He could only say it was both tall and hard. Insei originally had an adamantine body, and now with a 30% increase in hardness, it would probably rival Inma. In short, a massive gain. Chapter 71, Mifune of the Land of Iron. After choosing his summoning beast, Natsuki said goodbye to Sarutobi Hiruzen and returned to Orochimaru's residence. Natsuki, did you succeed? Noeki asked curiously upon seeing him. Tsunade also looked at him. Natsuki nodded. That's really rare. Tsunade smiled. Right now, it feels like you are more of teacher's student than we are. Teacher Tsunade, logically speaking, with your strength, you could definitely become contractors of the Monkey Clan. Why didn't you? Natsuki asked, confused. Judging from Inma's test, it was both difficult and not difficult. At the very least, it wouldn't be difficult for Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru. Because of poor compatibility. Tsunade explained. I use my fists, Jiraiya uses ninjutsu, and Orochimaru uses kenjutsu. None of us can bring out Inma's true strength. I see. Natsuki asked again. Teacher Tsunade, when are we going out on a mission? He currently had many template abilities that needed to be unlocked. There are too many spies in Konoha recently. For safety's sake, we'll go out after teacher cleans them up. Tsunade considered. Natsuki wasn't in a hurry either. After chatting, he began his training. He used the shadow clone jutsu to create a shadow clone. The shadow clone trained in water-release chakra nature transformation while he researched the new ability of the Logia-type plume fruit white launcher. The sun set in the west. An ANBU ninja suddenly appeared. He walked up to Tsunade, handed her a scroll, and then disappeared. Natsuki, Naoki, and Minato, who had finished training and were preparing to leave, subconsciously looked at her. All the Kumigakure spies in Konoha have been found. Tsunade smiled. The third Raikage will probably be heartbroken for a long time. This is the price for Kumigakure's audacity. Naoki clenched his fists. As Senju Hashirama's grandson, his feelings for Konoha naturally went without saying. In his view, Kumigakure's kidnapping of Kushina was simply abominable. Tsunade paused. Grandma Mito said that starting tomorrow, you'll go to her place to train. Why? Naoki asked instinctively. Because of Kushina. Tsunade explained. First, you can train together and avoid being lonely. Second, Kushina won't have to go out, which is much safer. Although the Kumigakure spies had all been eliminated, the third Raikage would definitely send more ninjas over. Kushina still faced the risk of being kidnapped. Not just her, the other Uzumaki clan members would also have their protection strengthened. If something happened, Konoha wouldn't be able to answer to Uzumaki Mito and Uzumaki Keisuke. The next morning, Kushina was absent-mindedly practicing sealing jutsu. Her gaze drifted toward the door from time to time. Seeing this, Mito couldn't help but smile. Ever since Kushina was saved by Natsuki that day, she had been in this state. Kushina. Mito teased. Didn't you just see Natsuki? When did I just see him? The last time we met was the day before yesterday. Kushina realized the problem only after speaking. She couldn't help but puff out her cheeks. Mito smiled even more happily. Right at that moment, a knock sounded on the door. Natsuki. Kushina's eyes lit up. She hurried toward the door. Why are you only greeting Natsuki? Naoki put his arm around Minato's shoulder. What about us? Naoki-senpai, Minato, welcome. Kushina added, embarrassed. Let's go inside to talk. Tsunade raised her hand and flicked Naoki's forehead. The group entered the courtyard. After exchanging pleasantries with Mito, they began today's training. Time flew. It was July. After 2 months of hard work, Natsuki unlocked another ability. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Smoker Template Ability 5, White Vine. With this, all 5 abilities of the Smoker Template were fully unlocked. Of course, unlocking White Vine also meant Natsuki had successfully mastered White Launcher, gaining the ability to fly. White Vine could be considered the strongest among the 5 abilities. The previous abilities all involved shooting smoke from the arms, but White Vine transformed the entire body into smoke to trap the target. The entangling ability reached another level. On the Ninja Academy playground, the students of Class 4A erupted in waves of cheers. Because Natsuki defeated Minato once again. The two involved were very calm. One knew he wouldn't lose. The other knew he couldn't win. With the customary battle between Natsuki and Minato concluding, the first semester of Class 4A came to an end. Unsurprisingly, Natsuki was still in first place. Minato was in second. But third place wasn't Kushina because she didn't participate in the final exam. However, it wasn't Onodera either. It was Kushina's good friend, Uzumaki Kei. In the original story, Karen's mother's talent wasn't mentioned, but Karen's was. Karen, without any teacher, had directly used the adamantine sealing chains. This alone was enough to prove her astonishing talent. Besides that, she had also mastered the mind's eye of the Kagura and the mystical palm jutsu. The only pity was that in the original story, she never met a suitable teacher. Otherwise, Natsuki felt she would not be inferior to Haruno Sakura. From the current perspective, Uzumaki Kei's talent wasn't bad. Worthy of being called a genius. Although not comparable to Kushina and Minato. I wonder if teacher will come back during summer vacation. Minato said as they walked. Although training together with Natsuki, Naoki, and the others wasn't bad, the teacher wasn't Jiraiya, which ultimately made him unaccustomed. It's probably very unlikely. Natsuki shook his head. The war between Omegakure and Tsunagakure had reached its most intense moment. Once a victor was decided, the spearhead might turn toward Konoha, starting a new war. War could break out at any time. Jiraiya and Orochimaru had no way to leave. Natsuki. Minato. Naoki's voice rang out. Natsuki looked up and saw Naoki and Tsunade standing at the school gate. Go home and prepare. Gather at the village entrance at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Tsunade said directly. Teacher has a mission. What mission? Natsuki's spirits lifted. It had been almost half a year since their last mission outside to the Uzumaki clan. He had long been impatient. Jiraiya sent back intel that Hanzo might be planning to make a move against the Land of Iron. Tsunade replied. Teacher wants us to make a trip to the Land of Iron. The Land of Iron? Natsuki immediately thought of Mifune. The Land of Iron was different from other countries. It had no ninjas but it had samurai. However, although they were called samurai, they were actually more like ninjas who used swords and blades. Because these samurai also had chakra. Mifune was the cream of the crop among them, serving as the general of the Land of Iron and the leader of the samurai. Natsuki fell into thought. The original story mentioned a battle between Hanzo and Mifune, which had most likely occurred during the Second Shinobi World War. Then could this trip to the Land of Iron help him unlock character template abilities? Chapter 72, Nono's First Mission. After Natsuki left the Ninja Academy, he went to Konoha Hospital. Before he even got close, he saw Yakushi Nono standing at the hospital entrance. Did class end early today? Natsuki walked up to her, reached out and pinched her cheek. I finished today's lessons early. Nono replied softly. That's amazing. Natsuki smiled. Tomorrow is summer vacation. Teacher Tsunade said you can come with us to the Land of Iron. I can go too. Nono's gentle expression changed. A look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. Natsuki explained. Teacher Tsunade said your strength is already comparable to a medical genin, so you can go out on missions to gain experience. Nono nodded vigorously, the corners of her mouth turning up. She looked very happy. She had long wanted to go on a mission with Natsuki but she never had the chance or wasn't allowed to. This is your first time going on a mission, so I'll tell you some things to keep in mind. Natsuki said as they walked. First, you must bring enough bento. During a mission, lighting a fire to cook isn't allowed. Nono followed behind him, listening attentively. Upon arriving at the Konoha orphanage, Natsuki pulled her into the kitchen. The Land of Iron was to the northeast of the Land of Fire. According to a normal ninja's pace, the journey would take 1 to 2 days. The number of bento needed would be between 3 and 6. Considering that besides Tsunade, they were all children and their speed wouldn't be that fast, he prepared bento for a 2-day journey. No. Natsuki opened the refrigerator. What do you want to eat on the way? Anything is fine. Nono said seriously. Everything you cook is delicious. Then I'll make a few different things. Natsuki considered. Let's start with 3-colored dango. 3-colored dango, also known as glutinous rice dumplings. In the original story, it was Mitarashi Anko and Uchiha Ataka's favorite. Especially the former, who eventually ate so much she turned into Mitarashi sweet potato. Nono stood aside, watching Natsuki's movements. It wasn't until the enticing aroma wafted out that she subconsciously licked her lips. Have a taste. Natsuki handed her a glutinous rice dumpling. Nono immediately opened her mouth and took a bite. After chewing a few times, a trace of enjoyment uncontrollably appeared on her fair face. Delicious. After speaking, she bit into the remaining dumpling. It's all covered in your saliva. Natsuki glanced at his finger and joked. Hearing this, Nono gave him a smiling face. Truly cute. Natsuki turned around and continued cooking. Considering the freeloaders Tsunade, Naoki, and Minato, he made a few extra portions. The next day, after eating breakfast, Natsuki and Nono arrived at the entrance of Konoha. Tsunade, Naoki, and Minato had already arrived early but Kushina wasn't there. Her special status made it difficult for her to go out, especially since she had been kidnapped before. Of course, the most important reason was that Uzumaki Mito's life was nearing its end. She had to hurry and learn sealing jutsu. Let's go. After Tsunade finished registering with the Konoha gate guards, she turned and walked out. Leaving the village required registration. She was no exception. Natsuki glanced at the gate guards. They were unfamiliar faces, not Kamizuki Izumo and Hagana Katetsu from the original story. But that was normal. They hadn't even been born yet. Night fell. The group successfully arrived at the northeastern border of the Land of Fire. Sweet and sticky. Truly not bad. Tsunade took a bite of the three-colored dango and praised. Although I don't really like sweets, I have to say it's pretty good. Noeki exhaled. Minato and Nono spoke less, silently eating their three-colored dango. After you finish eating, I'll tell you about this mission. Tsunade clapped her hands. The main purpose is to form an alliance with the Land of Iron. An alliance? Noeki was stunned. Doesn't that mean we won't encounter any enemies on this trip? Most likely, we won't. Tsunade replied. Then what's the point of this mission? Noeki instantly showed a disappointed expression. He had been learning water breathing recently. With the great sword Samehada, he had been wanting to find an enemy to test them on. He originally thought there would be an opportunity on this mission, but who knew it was just a simple trip to form an alliance. Do you know what the Land of Iron is also known as? Tsunade knew what he was thinking. She smiled. What? Noeki scratched his head. The Land of Samurai. Natsuki said. Correct. Tsunade nodded. Samurai value martial arts and are very willing to spar with others. I heard teachers say that among samurai, there's a popular practice called dojo crashing. Minato spoke up. It means visiting famous local samurai to spar. Then who is the strongest in the Land of Iron? Noeki asked impatiently. Mifune. Tsunade paused. But you definitely aren't his match, so don't go asking for trouble. Can a samurai be stronger than a ninja? Noeki asked, confused. Samurai also use chakra. Tsunade replied. They are essentially ninjas who use kenjutsu. I see. Realization appeared on Noeki's face. Is Mifune a jonin? Mifune is famous for his self-created Mifune-style kenjutsu. The characteristic is speed so fast that ninjas don't even have time to form hand seals. Tsunade introduced. Besides that, he has a katana called Kurosawa, which is said to cut through iron like mud. Kurosawa? Is it very famous? Natsuki was slightly taken aback. He knew Mifune had a katana, but he didn't know it was that famous. Naturally, it's very famous. Tsunade glanced at him. Among samurai and kenjutsu ninjas, it's practically known to everyone. Natsuki immediately thought of his heroic spirit Emiya template. The unlock condition for ability 3, Projection Magecraft, was to project 7 famous ninja tools. He had already projected the Sword of the Thunder God, the Kusanagi Sword, the Long Sword Nuibari, the Blunt Sword, Kabutori, and the White Light Chakra Saber. He was only short 2 swords. According to Tsunade's description, Kurosawa should meet the condition. Besides that, there was also the unlock condition for ability 4, Broken Phantasm, breaking a famous ninja tool in combat. Kurosawa would most likely satisfy that requirement as well. Most importantly, Mifune was a samurai of the Land of Iron, not a ninja of Konoha. The only question was whether Mifune would refuse to form an alliance because Kurosawa was broken. Natsuki thought carefully and felt he wouldn't. Judging from Mifune's performance in the original story, he could indeed be called an outstanding samurai possessing a strong samurai spirit. I want to challenge Mifune. Natsuki snapped back to reality. With your strength, you could give it a try. Tsunade nodded. She didn't refuse. Damn it. Noeki clenched his fists in frustration. Minato also felt bitter. Natsuki was improving too fast. He couldn't catch up no matter how hard he tried. Chapter 73, Noeki using water breathing. The next afternoon. The capital of the Land of Iron. Natsuki and the others followed Tsunade into the daimyo's mansion. The daimyo of the Land of Iron sat in a high position, flanked by samurai wearing katanas at their waists. Daimyo. Tsunade bowed slightly. Princess Tsunade, welcome. The daimyo of the Land of Iron said politely. Natsuki's thoughts stirred. In the original story, Tsunade was often called princess. For a ninja, this was impossible. The reason was that ninjas actually had very low status in the ninja world. Ninjas were essentially the daimyo's thugs or mercenaries, very humble in front of the daimyo. Tsunade was an exception. Whether it was ninjas from other villages or daimyos and nobles from various countries, they would all add the title princess when addressing her. Daimyo. Tsunade produced a scroll. This is intel our Konoha received recently. After she finished speaking, a young samurai walked up to her, took the scroll, and handed it to the daimyo. The daimyo opened the scroll and read it. A moment later, his expression became extremely serious. Mifune, take a look too. The daimyo handed the scroll to the young samurai who had just taken it. Hearing the name Mifune, Natsuki's gaze fell on him. In the original story, his main screen time was concentrated during the Fourth Shinobi World War. At that time, he was already 65 years old, a far cry from his current youthful appearance. Daimyo, although the Land of Iron is a neutral country, we now have a common enemy. Konoha hopes to form an alliance with you. Tsunade stated her purpose. Forming an alliance seemed more beneficial to the Land of Iron because Konoha was stronger, but in reality, it wasn't. The Land of Fire was wedged between the Land of Iron and the Land of Rain. In other words, if a Megakure wanted to attack the Land of Iron, they would most likely have to attack Konoha along the way. I agree. The daimyo exchanged a glance with Mifune and agreed. Although a Megakure was a small ninja village, the existence of Hanzo made its strength far exceed that of the Land of Iron. If the Land of Iron faced a Megakure alone, there would be only one result: defeat. Although the Land of Fire separated them, a Megakure could take a detour and Konoha could also let them pass. I still trust Konoha's credibility. The daimyo added. Mifune, go prepare the alliance treaty immediately. Yes, daimyo. Mifune nodded, then turned to order his subordinates to make arrangements. Preparing the alliance treaty will take time. We will sign it tomorrow morning. The daimyo paused. You must be exhausted from your journey. Go rest first. We will have dinner together tonight. Daimyo. Tsunade said unhurriedly. My students have long admired the kenjutsu of the Land of Iron. I wonder if we could hold an exchange meet. The daimyo subconsciously looked at Natsuki and the others. He quickly smiled. Naturally, we can. Natsuki and the others looked like they were 8 or 9 years old. No matter how strong they were, they would be chunin at best. Tsunade's claim of admiring the kenjutsu of the Land of Iron probably wasn't just a polite remark. Logically and emotionally, he should agree. Mifune, you make the preparations. The daimyo ordered. Go call your senior and junior brothers and your students. Yes, daimyo. Mifune said with a calm face. His thoughts were the same as the daimyo's. Natsuki and this group of children had come because of their reputation. Tsunade could guess what they were thinking, but she didn't say more. Because saying more was useless. Everything had to be proven with strength. How about we hold it after the banquet? The daimyo considered. That works. Tsunade nodded. With the matter concluded, Natsuki and the others followed Mifune to the rooms arranged for them to rest. Soon, it was time for dinner. The daimyo attached great importance to them. The dishes served were excellent in color, aroma, and taste. It was delicious, but it still couldn't compare to the food Natsuki cooked. After dinner, it was time for the exchange meet. The exchange meet was held in the courtyard of the daimyo's mansion. Although it was already dark, under the illumination of various lights, it was no different from daytime. Let me introduce them to our guests. Mifune raised his hand. This is my student, Yagyu Musashi. His strength is roughly equivalent to a chunin. I want to challenge him. Noeki said impatiently. Noeki, wait until Mifune finishes his introductions. Tsunade glared at him. Mifune continued his introductions. Although many samurai came, the vast majority had chunin level strength. A few had jonin level strength. First match, Yagyu Musashi vs Noeki. After confirming both parties' willingness, Mifune announced loudly. Noeki, do your best. Natsuki spoke up. Don't worry, I'll definitely beat him. Noeki grinned. I learned your water breathing, after all. After speaking, he walked onto the field carrying the great sword Sameheta on his back. Yagyu Musashi subconsciously looked at it. Is this also a sword? Be careful. Mifune's gaze sharpened. He recognized the great sword Sameheta. This is one of the 7 ninja swords of Kirigaku, or the great sword Sameheta. Hearing this, Yagyu Musashi immediately became cautious. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist had a great reputation. He had heard of them too. Kenjutsu, Iai/. Yagyu Musashi's body blurred. He charged toward Noeki. As he got close, he suddenly drew his sword. The sword was like lightning, the tip aiming straight for Noeki's heart. Noeki immediately used water breathing the moment he saw him move. Water breathing not only enhanced the power of water release, it also comprehensively strengthened the body. He originally couldn't see the blade light clearly, but he immediately caught its trajectory. Water breathing, first form water surface slash. Noeki gripped the great sword Samehada and smashed it out directly. Water flowed out, forming a giant arc of light in front of him. Boom! The katana and the great sword Samehada collided. Yagyu Musashi only felt his body tremble. He kicked his feet repeatedly to retreat backward. Again! Noeki shouted excitedly. Water breathing, second form water wheel. He twisted his body. The great sword Samehada followed his movement, forming a rotating slash from top to bottom. Water flow swirled around him, spinning like a water wheel. Yagyu Musashi was terrified. He instinctively raised his sword to block, but it was too late. The immense force caused his katana to bend. The water flow subsequently crashed into him. Yagyu Musashi let out a miserable scream, spinning twice on the ground like a top. The daimyo, Mifune, and the others instantly fell into dead silence. They thought victory was in their grasp, but it turned into a crushing defeat in the blink of an eye. But could they blame Yagyu Musashi? No. What kind of kenjutsu is this? Mifune couldn't help but ask. He considered himself knowledgeable and experienced, having heard of all the major and minor kenjutsu styles in the ninja world. But this kenjutsu was completely unheard of. Water breathing. Noeki raised his hand. It's a kenjutsu created by Natsuki. Mifune subconsciously looked in the direction he pointed. Seeing it was Natsuki, he couldn't help but be stunned. His first reaction was that Noeki was lying. How could an 8 or 9-year-old child create such a powerful kenjutsu? Even in the Land of Iron, one had to reach the level of a sword master to create this kind of kenjutsu. A sword master was equivalent to a jonin. But Noeki had no reason to lie. Especially in front of Tsunade. Lying would destroy Konoha's credibility. Chapter 74, Minato's Reaction. Although Noeki won against Yagyu Musashi, the spotlight was stolen by Natsuki. However, he didn't mind. After all, his water breathing was indeed taught by Natsuki. How did I do? Noeki stepped off the field and looked at Tsunade and the others. Extremely well. Natsuki praised. Much stronger than me. Minato said truthfully. Because he was in the same class as Natsuki, he considered him his biggest rival. But this battle made him realize that Noeki's strength was equally not to be underestimated. However, compared to the ever-widening gap with Natsuki, he was confident he could catch up to Noeki. You won relying on the water-breathing Natsuki taught you and the great sword Samehada he gave you. Tsunade said seriously. Don't become arrogant because of one victory. I know. Noeki replied, but judging from the smile on his face, he obviously didn't take it to heart. Tsunade understood his personality. She shook her head and said no more. Minato, it's your turn next. Don't lose. Noeki clenched his fists and cheered him on. Minato had never been one to succumb to pressure. He walked onto the field with a calm face. My name is Namikaze Minato. I don't know kenjutsu, only ninjutsu. Minato introduced himself. My strength is also roughly equivalent to a chunin. I'll go. Suddenly, a chorus of voices rang out. Minato was slightly taken aback. Was he being treated as a soft target? Actually, they couldn't be blamed for this reaction. Because the core of Mifune-style kenjutsu was speed. Ordinary ninjas facing them wouldn't even have time to react and would be instantly killed. Miyamoto Jiro, you go. Mifune raised his hand to stop the clamor. A teenager who looked about 17 or 18 stepped forward. He was Miyamoto Jiro. Perform well. Mifune instructed. This exchange meet only had 3 matches. Nono was a medical ninja, so she didn't participate. They had already lost one of the 3 matches. If they lost another, would the Land of Iron have any face left? Moreover, the samurai sent out by the Land of Iron were much older than Natsuki and the others. Bullying the young as the old losing would be even more disgraceful. But if they sent out peers of the same age, they would definitely lose. Because normally, 8 or 9-year-old children hadn't even graduated from the Ninja Academy, let alone reached Chunin level. Mifune still had confidence in Miyamoto Jiro. Speed was his greatest advantage. Especially before reaching the Jonin level. Unless Minato, like Noeki, had the advantage of kenjutsu and a ninja sword. Please. Miyamoto Jiro drew a katana. Minato nodded. Just as he was about to move, blade light appeared in his vision. Kenjutsu, Iai slash. Miyamoto Jiro, like Yagyu Musashi, moved like thunder. With one step, his sword was already in front of Minato. Mifune couldn't help but nod. Miyamoto Jiro's Iai slash was perfectly executed without any mistakes. At such speed, only a few elite Chunin, Takubitsu Jonin, or Jonin could react. But in the next second, a clanging sound froze the expressions of Mifune and Miyamoto Jiro. In the nick of time, Minato used a kunao to block Miyamoto Jiro's sword. At the same time, he retreated and threw 6 kunao. Despite his astonishment, Miyamoto Jiro's movements were not slow. Clanging sounds rang out continuously. He used his katana to deflect all 6 kunao. Wind release, vacuum sphere. Minato formed hand seals while widening the distance. When he stopped, countless wind spheres shot toward Miyamoto Jiro. Mifune-style first sword, flame. Miyamoto Jiro gripped his katana tightly. Chakra surged out. He swung the sword. In an instant, a visible sword aura sliced all the incoming wind spheres in half. Miyamoto Jiro took a deep breath, accelerated again, and charged toward Minato. The sword arrived before the person. The speed was equally astonishing. But Minato's body blurred, dodging the katana. How is this possible? Miyamoto Jiro confirmed that Minato blocking his Iai slash earlier was no accident. This 8 or 9-year-old child possessed superhuman reaction speed. Mifune also noticed this and was instantly speechless. He had ultimately underestimated them. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Minato formed hand seals with both hands and threw a single shuriken. In an instant, countless shuriken covered Miyamoto Jiro. Miyamoto Jiro widened his eyes, his wrist flicking as he rapidly swung his katana, deflecting the shuriken one after another. Minato calmly formed hand seals again. Wind release, gale palm. A fierce wind enveloped him. His speed suddenly increased as he charged toward Miyamoto Jiro. Miyamoto Jiro noticed him and hurriedly slashed with his sword. But it was still dodged by Minato. And due to this delay, the shuriken landed on him. Seeing this, Mifune hurried forward, grabbed Miyamoto Jiro, and retreated. Minato immediately stopped. You win, Minato. Mifune praised. If you were a samurai of the Land of Iron, I would definitely make you my successor. If such astonishing reaction speed were applied to Kenjutsu, it would create a sword master no less formidable than himself. Thank you. Minato left the field, unruffled. As expected of the student favored by Lord Jiraiya. Nowaika gave a thumbs up. If it weren't for water breathing and the great sword Samehada, he wouldn't be confident in beating Minato. His strength isn't inferior to mine. I won by a stroke of luck. Minato smiled. Why is your tone of speaking exactly the same as Natsuki's? Nowaika's mouth twitched. Natsuki also loves to say things like fluke or luck. Minato instantly fell silent. He had heard those words much more often than Nowaiki. After all, he lost to Natsuki in every exam. Over time, he was also influenced by Natsuki. At this moment, Mifune and the others fell into dead silence again. They had already lost 2 of the 3 exchange matches. If they lost all of them, it wouldn't just be a matter of face. And they could tell that Natsuki was probably stronger than Nowaiki and Minato. Especially since he had also created a set of Kenjutsu himself. Samurai of the Land of Iron were originally famous for their Kenjutsu. If they couldn't compare to Natsuki in Kenjutsu, their reputation built over so many years would go down the drain. Who do you want to challenge? Mifune asked slowly. I challenge you. Natsuki said in a calm tone. What are you saying? Simply not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. A little brat actually dares to be so arrogant. Lord Mifune has defeated many jonin. As soon as Natsuki spoke, the other samurai immediately shouted in reprimand. Silence. Mifune glared at them, then turned to look at Natsuki. I accept your challenge. Since Natsuki dared to challenge him, it meant he indeed had the confidence to win. Coupled with the fact that this was the last match of the exchange meet, the Land of Iron couldn't afford to lose again. Then he would step forward and see exactly how much strength this genius possessed. Chapter 75, Defeating Mifune, Broken Phantasm Unlocked. Since you can create Kenjutsu, you must be most adept at it. Mifune gripped his katana Kurosawa with his right hand but didn't draw it. Pretty much. Natsuki nodded. Then where is your sword? Mifune looked him up and down. A ninja pouch could only hold small ninja tools like kunao and shuriken. A sword definitely wouldn't fit. Swords were usually hung at the waist or carried on the back. My sword is a bit special. Natsuki formed hand seals and summoned Insei. He already had two swords, the sword of the Thunder God and the Nikogiri. But it would be very difficult for these two swords to cut through Mifune's Kurosawa. The sword of the Thunder God wasn't sturdy to begin with. In the original story, it was even broken by Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke. Not to mention the Nikogiri. It wasn't a famous sword, just a sword with a little chakra metal added. Therefore, Natsuki planned to use Insei. Insei inherently had an adamantine body, and with the enhancement of the Ten Shadows technique, its hardness would surpass Mifune's Kurosawa. However, breaking it would still require some technique such as repeatedly striking a specific spot on the blade. What's going on? The other samurai were puzzled by Insei's appearance. Is this, the third Hokage's summoning beast? Mifune had broader horizons than the other samurai and immediately thought of Sarutobi Hiruzen's Inma. Yes and no. Natsuki explained. It's not Lord Hokage's summoning beast, but they are both from the Monkey Clan. As he spoke, Insei's body transformed. A katana quickly appeared before everyone. Natsuki casually placed the katana at his waist. I've heard of the Monkey Clan, but I didn't expect to see one with my own eyes today. Mifune said seriously. Please advise me. Natsuki creating the water-breathing Kenjutsu was already enough to make him take him seriously. Now he even brought out the same type of summoning beast as Sarutobi Hiruzen. With Sarutobi Hiruzen's status and strength, it was impossible for him to casually give a summoning beast to an 8 or 9-year-old child. Natsuki must have some extraordinary qualities. Mifune had previously been very confident in winning this battle, but now he was a bit uncertain. But no matter what, he had to win. Kenjutsu, IAI/. Mifune's body instantly disappeared from his spot, leaving only a flash of blade light speeding through the air. Using the same IAI/, its speed in his hands was much faster than Yagyu Musashi and Miyamoto Jiro's. One sword style, IAI Lion's Song. Reinforcement Magecraft. Natsuki had already guessed he would use IAI/, so he also drew his sword. He transformed into a beam of blade light and crashed into him. Following the sound of tearing air was a piercing metallic screech. Terrifying power formed wave after wave of air currents spreading in all directions. The spectating samurai subconsciously frowned, but their eyes remained fixed on the center of the field. The two who had disappeared reappeared. Their two katanas were still locked together in a stalemate. This. They're actually evenly matched? Am I under a genjutsu? His kenjutsu isn't inferior to Lord Mifune's. Miyamoto Jiro and the others widened their eyes. Expressions of disbelief appeared on their faces. Beautifully done. Noeki immediately shouted excitedly. Minato subconsciously leaned forward. This was undoubtedly a great opportunity to understand Natsuki's strength. Surprise flashed in Tsunade's eyes. She had originally thought Natsuki's strength would be considerably inferior to Mifune's. Truly remarkable. While praising him, Mifune suddenly raised his hands and brought them down. In an extremely short amount of time, he erupted with powerful strength, delivering a downward slash aimed at Natsuki's katana. One sword style, 36-pound phoenix. Natsuki didn't take it head-on. He took a step back. The flying slash exploded like a gust of wind. Mifune's expression remained unchanged. His downward slash turned into a horizontal slash, directly splitting the flying slash in two. Kenjutsu, sky-splitting slash. Mifune flicked his wrist. Chakra surged into his Kurosawa. A crescent moon-like blade light struck toward Natsuki. Water-breathing, fourth form striking tide. Natsuki immediately stopped, raised his katana. Countless streams of water surrounded it. Reinforcement Magecraft. He leaped up, using the momentum of his body to bring his katana down on Mifune's head. The blade light shattered. Clang. Mifune blocked Natsuki's katana with Kurosawa. But what he didn't notice was that in both collisions, Natsuki's katana landed exactly 2/3 up Kurosawa's blade. The reason Natsuki could be so precise was that he possessed clairvoyance. Clairvoyance could accurately hit a target several kilometers away, let alone Kurosawa at such close range. Mifune-style first sword, flame. Kurosawa lit up, flashing with blue light. Mifune gripped Kurosawa tightly. The moment he infused chakra, he widened the distance and swung fiercely. A strong sword aura appeared in the air. Its giant form looked like a 40-meter-long sword descending from the sky. Water-breathing, third-form flowing dance. Natsuki swung several slashes in an instant, finally blocking the sword aura with one strike. Countless air currents exploded like fireworks. Natsuki uncontrollably retreated backward, his feet leaving deep marks on the ground. Great! Lord Mifune has gained the upper hand. Lord Mifune is stronger after all. Seeing this, the other samurai became excited. Tsunade, Noeki, and the others showed looks of concern. Natsuki stopped his retreat and took a deep breath. In terms of pure kenjutsu, he was indeed inferior to Mifune. But this wasn't a pure kenjutsu battle. Your talent in kenjutsu, I am willing to call it the strongest. Mifune said regretfully. What a pity you are not a samurai of the Land of Iron. After speaking, he closed in again. Kurosawa bit toward Natsuki like a giant dragon. Reinforcement Magecraft. Water breathing, sixth form whirlpool. Natsuki twisted his body. His sword once again hit 2/3 up Kurosawa's blade. Mifune only felt his arms tremble slightly, but he quickly steadied his body, turned Kurosawa, and swept it out horizontally again. Reinforcement Magecraft. Water breathing, fourth form striking tide. Natsuki met it with a slash. Clang. Both sides retreated. But Natsuki had to take one more step back. Even with the enhancements of reinforcement Magecraft and water breathing, his physical fitness was ultimately inferior to Mifune's thoroughly tempered body. Even so, being able to fight him and only be at a slight disadvantage was enough to shock Miyamoto Jiro and the others. It was the first time they realized someone could have such terrifying kenjutsu talent. Minato also felt his scalp tingle watching it. Before learning the Flying Thunder God technique, he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat Natsuki. The two swords clashed continuously. The two of them fought back and forth. Without a doubt, Mifune held the advantage. But Natsuki also had an advantage. He had a lot of chakra and could continuously use reinforcement Magecraft and water breathing. Mifune suddenly let out a soft sound of surprise and hurriedly widened the distance. He looked down and couldn't help but frown. A crack had appeared 2/3 up Kurosawa's blade. This was the first time he had seen it damaged since acquiring Kurosawa. The Monkey Clan's adamantine body truly lives up to its reputation. Mifune took a deep breath. After the battle is over, I am willing to pay to have this katana repaired for you. Natsuki said, pretending to know nothing. No need. Mifune said immediately. But it's indeed time to end this. Try this. Secret sword, wind and snow slash. Mifune let out a fierce shout. All his chakras surged out. A storm formed with him at the center. And Kurosawa bloomed with a strong blue light. The light covered Kurosawa and continuously spread outward. Natsuki immediately realized he couldn't block it. The moment Mifune moved, he used White Launcher. A giant blue sword aura carrying a fierce wind blasted toward Natsuki. Wherever it passed, the ground cracked. Rubble flew everywhere. Tsunade instinctively stood up, just preparing to rescue Natsuki when she saw an astonishing scene. She saw Natsuki shoot into the sky right before the blue sword aura reached him. Literally shooting into the sky. Countless streams of smoke lifted him up, rising into the air. The blue sword aura instantly missed. A massive trench appeared on the ground. Mifune couldn't help but go blank. His eyes reflected Natsuki in mid-air. Obviously, his secret sword, wind and snow slash, had no effect. What ninjutsu is this? Tsunade showed a look of surprise. He can actually fly. Minato, also seeing a flight-type ninjutsu for the first time, was instantly stunned. Too cool! Noeki shouted excitedly. Reinforcement Magecraft. Water breathing, fourth form striking tide. In the air, Natsuki plummeted downward. Water flowed around him. As he approached Mifune, a sharp blade light descended. I haven't lost yet. Mifune reacted. He gripped Kurosawa and delivered an upward slash, blocking Natsuki's katana from below. Now! Natsuki's gaze sharpened. He extended his left hand. Nikogiri fell from his shadow space into his hand. Reinforcement Magecraft. Double circular. Nikogiri and the katana formed by Insai crossed to form a fan shape. And the center of the fan shape was exactly 2/3 up Kurosawa's blade. After a deafening crash, a crisp snap sounded. To everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the famous sword Kurosawa broke. The tip of the sword flew off and landed on the ground. Mifune, holding the broken sword, instinctively thrust at Natsuki. White snake. Natsuki dropped Nikogiri with his left hand. Smoke surged out. The snake-like smoke immediately entangled Mifune. Natsuki raised his right hand. The katana pressed against his neck. Mifune was instantly stunned. After a long while, he finally let go. The broken sword hit the ground, making a crisp sound. A samurai voluntarily dropping his sword meant he had conceded. Miyamoto Jiro and the others were at a loss for words, standing in place like wooden blocks. We won! Noeki immediately shouted. Nono also subconsciously stood up. If the occasion wasn't inappropriate, she definitely would have run over. Tsunade revealed a satisfied smile, but a headache immediately followed. Because Natsuki performed too well. Having just become allies, defeating Mifune so unceremoniously and breaking his famous sword Kurosawa was truly somewhat inappropriate. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Heroic Spirit Emiya Template Ability 4, Broken Phantasm. Looking at the line of text appearing before his eyes, Natsuki secretly thought, finally unlocked Broken Phantasm. Chapter 76, Sasaki Kojiro Template, Parts 1 and 2. The occasion was inappropriate, so Natsuki didn't test Broken Phantasm. He bent down and picked up the two halves of Kurosawa. Taking advantage of a brief moment, he used Projection Magecraft. Chakra flowed into the blade. The younger generation is formidable. Mifune said slowly. I have to thank you today for making me realize that my kenjutsu still needs improvement. Having become the general of the Land of Iron and the leader of the samurai at a young age, he was naturally proud and arrogant. Even though the strength of the 5 great villages far exceeded that of the Land of Iron, he believed that in terms of kenjutsu, he was the best in the ninja world. Natsuki's appearance shattered his perception. He had indeed been a frog in a well. My kenjutsu is inferior to yours. I defeated you using ninjutsu. After Natsuki understood the material of Kurosawa, he handed it back to Mifune. A loss is a loss. There is no difference between kenjutsu and ninjutsu, they are all part of your strength. Mifune took Kurosawa and said candidly. Natsuki nodded slightly. No wonder Hanzo in the original story had let Mifune go, because he was moved by his spirit of sacrificing himself to protect his comrades. In a sense, the young Hanzo also had the demeanor of a powerhouse. But in his old age, it was a different story. Today's battles were truly spectacular. The daimyo of the Land of Iron stood up and smiled. You two have worked hard. The exchange meet ends here. Go and rest. Yes, daimyo. Mifune bowed slightly. Seeing this, Tsunade felt somewhat relieved. It seemed the daimyo and Mifune could both afford to lose. As expected of the Land of Samurai. The daimyo left first. Mifune and the other samurai didn't stay long either, but their gazes were all fixed on Natsuki, looking as if they were reluctant to part. Actually, they just hadn't recovered from the shock of him defeating Mifune. Natsuki. Noeki said excitedly. You've really made a name for yourself in the Land of Iron this time. Mifune is the #1 samurai and the #1 sword master in the Land of Iron. Tsunade smiled. By defeating him, your name will be known to everyone in the Land of Iron within a day. He only lost to me because he didn't know my ninjutsu. As Natsuki spoke, he dispelled the summoning jutsu, letting Insai return to the monkey clan compound. What was that flying ninjutsu you just used? Hearing this, Noeki hurriedly asked. Is it a ninjutsu you created yourself? Natsuki nodded. It's a ninjutsu I modified based on the hiding in mist technique. Called White Launcher. It's a pity I don't have the talent to create ninjutsu. Minato said enviously. Natsuki's thoughts stirred, thinking of the Raise Nan. The Raise Nan had great power and didn't require hand seals. If he created it, he could also use it. He could try it when he had time. But creating the Raise Nan required extremely high chakra control. After all, the Raise Nan was known as the pinnacle of chakra-shaped transformation. What you did isn't called modifying a ninjutsu, it's essentially changing it into a completely different ninjutsu. Tsunade said, dumbfounded. White Launcher doesn't seem to have any similarities with the hiding in mist technique anymore. It looks more like a Kekii Genkai. Kekii Genkai? Is it that exaggerated? Noeki widened his eyes. Minato and Nono also showed surprised expressions. Because they all knew what a Kekii Genkai was. A Kekii Genkai wasn't an ordinary ninjutsu, it was a new elemental jutsu created by fusing two chakra nature transformations. For example, wood release was earth release plus water release. Another example was ice release wind release plus water release. Of course, there was also a type of Kekii Genkai passed down through bloodlines such as the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Kekii Genkai were often much more powerful than single chakra nature transformation ninjutsu. But being powerful meant they were not common. Among the 5 great villages, there weren't many ninjas who possessed Kekii Genkai. However, with a few exceptions, most Kekii Genkai ninjas were very strong. The Iberi clan living in the Land of Fire possesses the ability to transform into smoke, but their ability is very unstable. Tsunade shook her head. They cannot freely control their smoke transformation, and some even die because they cannot revert from their smoke form. Natsuki raised an eyebrow, recalling the storyline of the Iberi clan. To sum it up, it was very tragic. After Orochimaru defected, he went to the Iberi clan and helped them stabilize their smoke transformation ability. The Iberi clan thought they had welcomed a savior, but in reality, they were all Orochimaru's test subjects. Eventually, they were wiped out by Orochimaru. It had to be said, Orochimaru, in his pursuit of eternal life, truly did inhuman things. Fortunately, Orochimaru hadn't turned evil yet. That sounds inferior to the ninjutsu Natsuki created. Noeki evaluated. It is indeed inferior. Tsunade paused. Their smoke transformation has another fatal weakness: they will die if blown by the wind. Ah! Noeki scratched his head. Then what exactly is the use of this smoke transformation ability? Precisely because the flaws are too great, the Iberi clan did not join Konoha, but hides and survives in unventilated caves. Tsunade explained. For a ninja, abundant knowledge could bring considerable advantage. After all, knowledge was intel. By telling them the intel on the Iberi clan now, if Natsuki and Noeki encountered them in the future, they could easily win by targeting their weaknesses. You all did well today, winning all 3 matches. Tsunade changed the subject. It's about time. Let's go back to our rooms. Noeki and the others nodded and each returned to their rooms. After the door closed, Natsuki extended his hand. Projection Magecraft. A katana identical to Kurosawa's slowly appeared in the air. Natsuki grasped this replica and couldn't help but nod. Because the system recognized Kurosawa as a famous ninja tool. With this, he only needed to project one last famous ninja tool to obtain the enhanced version of Projection Magecraft. Natsuki stroked his chin. Orochimaru had previously promised to find him a Kusanagi sword. Should he wait for him, or go find one himself? But if he were to find one himself, he couldn't think of a suitable target for the time being. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist would work. But they were all in Kirigakura right now. Coupled with the fact that Natsuki had enmity with them, going to find them would be tantamount to walking right into a trap. Natsuki suddenly thought of the Uchiha clan. Unfortunately, when Uchiha Madara left, he took the Uchiha Tsukunbei, also known as the Uchiwa. Although he knew Uchiha Madara wasn't dead, an old Uchiha Madara was still Uchiha Madara. In the entire ninja world, including Uzumaki Mito, there was probably no one who could defeat him. You have awakened the Sasaki Kojiro template. A suddenly appearing line of text jolted Natsuki out of his thoughts. Sasaki Kojiro. He was no stranger to this name. In the Pokémon series, he was a member of Team Rocket. Ahem, wrong franchise. Sasaki Kojiro was a very famous sword master who, after studying Chujoryu Kenjutsu, traveled the country and founded the Ganryu Kenjutsu style. But his most famous deed was his duel with Miyamoto Musashi, where he was defeated and killed. Compared to Sasaki Kojiro, Miyamoto Musashi was even more famous. He had founded the Nidan Ichiryu Kenjutsu style, which was the dual blades style. Natsuki fell into thought. His awakening of the Sasaki Kojiro template was definitely related to defeating Mifune. He just didn't know which work this Sasaki Kojiro was from. After all, there were many works related to him. Thinking this, Natsuki looked at his newly acquired template. Name: Sasaki Kojiro. Period: 5th Holy Grail War Assassin Class Servant. World: Fate/Stay Night. Rank: A rank. Ability 1, Presence Concealment Unlocked effect: erase one's presence and blend into the environment, making it difficult for one's existence to be detected. Ability 2, Vitrification Locked effect: maintain a serene and clear state of mind at all times. Unlock condition: show no emotional fluctuations in 6 consecutive battles. Ability 3, Knowledge of Soa locked effect, when repeating the same kenjutsu against a target, the attacks will not be easily seen through. Unlock condition, master 6 kenjutsu styles of the ninja world. Ability 4, Eye of the Mind, false, locked effect, a 6th sense used for combat, a danger avoidance ability based on innate talent. Unlock condition, defeat a target with stronger kenjutsu than oneself. Ability 5, Sub-aim Ishi locked effect, an inevitable sword strike that slashes the opponent from 3 approaching directions simultaneously, aiming straight for the head. Unlock condition, engage in a gate-defending battle with an opponent of the same level. So it was the gatekeeper grandpa. In the 5th Holy Grail War of Fate/Stay Night, he was summoned irregularly, so he could only guard Ryuadu Temple. Moreover, his summoning catalyst was the mountain gate of Ryuadu Temple. Unable to leave the gate, he became the gatekeeper grandpa. But that didn't mean he wasn't strong. Rated as A rank, he would have roughly Jonin level strength in Naruto. If it were just kenjutsu, Natsuki felt he could be rated S rank. The Sasaki Kojiro template was quite special, because 4 of his 5 abilities were essentially passive abilities. Ability 1, Presence Concealment. As an assassin class servant, presence concealment could be considered essential. But his presence concealment rank wasn't high, it was more like a sword master blending into the environment to lower their presence. However, it was still very useful for Natsuki. After all, ninjas frequently executed infiltration missions. Ability 2, Vitrification. Seeing this ability, Natsuki thought of Zoulgaon's forced calmness. In terms of effect, they were indeed very similar. How should he put it? Although it couldn't directly enhance strength, it could help the user better utilize their strength. In competition or combat, mindset had a huge impact. Being able to remain calm even when cornered made it easier to turn the tide of battle. Its unlock condition wasn't difficult either. Natsuki generally didn't experience major emotional fluctuations during combat anyway. Ability 3, Knowledge of Soa. To be honest, this ability was somewhat broken like a conceptual ability. There's a saying, the same attack cannot be used twice against a saint. The first time is unknown, but the second time is known. Translated to the ninja world, it was that same saying, ninja battles were information battles. The effect of knowledge of Soa was to allow the user to repeatedly use the same kenjutsu without it being easily seen through. Of course, to achieve this meant the user had to be intimately familiar with many kenjutsu styles. Therefore, its unlock condition was to master 6 kenjutsu styles of the ninja world. Currently, Natsuki had only mastered Konoha-style kenjutsu, Uchiha-style kenjutsu, and Orochimaru-style kenjutsu. Ability 4, Eye of the Mind, false. Somewhat similar to Ability 3 leaning toward a conceptual ability. But the effect was equally powerful like an enhanced version of intuition. Ninjas, or humans, sometimes inexplicably had a certain feeling. This was intuition, or a 6th sense. With Eye of the Mind, false, Natsuki would be even less likely to be injured in combat. But its unlock condition was very demanding, requiring him to defeat a target with stronger kenjutsu than himself. Natsuki could only think of Konoha's White Fang, Hatake Sakumo, for now. He most likely couldn't beat him. However, as he unlocked more abilities from his character templates, he would defeat Hatake Sakumo sooner or later. Ability 5, Sub-aim Ishi. Sub-aim Ishi was Sasaki Kojiro's signature move. Its unlock condition puzzled Natsuki slightly. What does a gate-defending battle mean? Did he need to find a place like Ryuadu Temple to guard the gate, just like Sasaki Kojiro? Natsuki fell into thought. The system's text had always been what you see is what you get. It seemed he didn't need to guard the gate of a place like Ryuadu Temple. Theoretically, guarding the gate of Konoha would also work, or even just fighting in front of a gate. Natsuki let out a yawn and didn't continue researching. Since he had already awakened the character template, unlocking all the abilities was just a matter of time. There was no need to rush. The next morning, Tsunade signed the alliance treaty with the daimyo of the Land of Iron on behalf of Konoha, and Natsuki and the others' mission was completed. The group didn't linger. After the signing was complete, they returned to Konoha. No training today. Go home and rest. I'm going to see teacher. After Tsunade finished speaking, she headed toward the Hokage building. Are you guys going to rest? Noeka stated his plan. I'm going to Grandma Mito's place to train. I'll go too. Minato said without hesitation. His current strength couldn't compare to Naoki and Natsuki, so naturally, he didn't dare slack off. Because if he slacked off, the gap would only widen. For example, Natsuki's battle with Mifune this time made him realize this. Natsuki had actually quietly modified a flight-capable ninjutsu. Theoretically, being able to fly and widening the distance enough would already put him in an invincible position. Because Minato had no ninjutsu to counter it. Nono didn't speak, just looked at Natsuki. "You guys go ahead. We'll come over later." Natsuki considered. If he didn't go after returning to the village, Kushina would probably be unhappy not seeing him. "All right then." Naoki nodded. "Hurry over. See you later." Minato didn't say much more. He turned and left with Naoki. "Let's go to the training ground." Natsuki glanced at Nono. He actually just wanted to test his newly acquired ability Broken Phantasm. Although Nono didn't know what he was going to do, she still agreed. Chapter 77, Researching the Raise Nan. After arriving at a secluded, empty training ground, Natsuki raised his hand. Projection Mage Craft. A kunao appeared in his hand. Natsuki flicked his wrist fiercely. The kunao flew straight toward a tree not far away. As it pierced the trunk, the kunao trembled violently. The chakra contained within surged outward. Boom! The kunao exploded. A small crater formed on the tree trunk with the kunao at its center. Nono watched, feeling very confused. Why did a kunao explode? There was no explosive tag attached to it. Moreover, the power of this explosion was far inferior to an explosive tag. Natsuki nodded in satisfaction. The power generated by a projected kunao combined with Broken Phantasm was indeed inferior to an explosive tag. But this was a cost-free explosion, saving money compared to explosive tags. Furthermore, most ninjas were squishy, so an explosion like this could still cause significant injuries. Most importantly, it was impossible to guard against. Who would expect a kunao to suddenly explode? Natsuki quickly thought of another use. Projection Mage Craft. A replica of Kurosawa appeared and was grasped in his hand. He threw it directly. Kurosawa hit the tree, burying a third of its blade into the trunk. Broken Phantasm. Natsuki snapped his fingers. Kurosawa exploded amidst its trembling. Crack! The tree was blown in half at the trunk. First, because a third of Kurosawa's blade was embedded, making it equivalent to an internal explosion. Second, because Kurosawa contained more chakra than a kunao, resulting in a more powerful explosion. Natsuki couldn't help but smile. As the saying goes, who would expect a thrown ninja sword to explode? Projection Mage Craft combined with Broken Phantasm undoubtedly possessed the power of a first sight kill. The so-called first sight kill was actually the embodiment of ninja battles or information battles. When facing a ninjutsu for the first time, ninjas were easily instantly killed or heavily injured. How was that? Natsuki turned to look at Nono. Very powerful. Nono said softly. But because Natsuki had always been very powerful in her mind, her surprise quickly faded. Let's go. We're heading to Lady Mito's place. Natsuki pinched her small cheek and left the training ground with her. Soon, they arrived at the Senju clan compound. Naoki, Minato, and Kushina were already training. Naoki. Natsuki considered. I feel like I can start the second stage of water release chakra nature transformation training. Once the second stage of training was complete, his water release chakra nature transformation would basically reach the proficient level. Then, ability 4 of his Kamado Tanjiro template could be unlocked. Follow me. Naoki put away the great sword Samehada and led him to a nearby river. Without speaking, he directly extended his hands. In the next second, under his control, a stream of water swirled and swayed in midair like a dancing snake. Water release has two characteristics, one is moisture, and the other is flow. Naoki explained. The first two stages of water release chakra nature transformation training correspond to these two characteristics. This flowing characteristic seems to be related to chakra shape transformation. Natsuki said thoughtfully. It is indeed related. Naoki nodded. Because flow involves chakra shape transformation. Ninjutsu had three foundations. First, chakra control ability. Second, chakra shape transformation. Third, chakra nature transformation. Powerful ninjutsu often involved all three. Of course, there were also some that involved two, such as the Raise Nan, which didn't involve chakra nature transformation. Looking at the flowing water, Natsuki's thoughts stirred. Wasn't this the best excuse to create the Raise Nan? The Raise Nan was a ninjutsu created by Namikaze Minato, modeled after the tailed beast ball. But Natsuki hadn't seen a tailed beast ball and wouldn't be able to see one in the short term. Unless he asked Uzumaki Mito for help. However, a tailed beast ball was so dangerous. She definitely wouldn't casually fire one off just to help him create the Raise Nan. Moreover, given her current old age, releasing a tailed beast ball might accelerate the consumption of her lifespan. I suddenly have an idea for a new ninjutsu. Natsuki spoke up. Ah! Noeki suddenly turned his head to look at him. No, bro, is creating ninjutsu that easy? And wasn't I just teaching you water release chakra nature transformation training? Why do you suddenly have an idea for a new ninjutsu? But the requirements for this ninjutsu are quite high. Natsuki smiled. I'll ask Kushina and Nono for help later. He had also just thought of it. The Raise Nan required extremely high chakra control. Kushina and Nono perfectly met this condition. The reason was that sealing jutsu and medical ninjutsu were the two most difficult types of ninjutsu. Without extremely high chakra control, it was simply impossible to learn them. Moreover, having Kushina and Nono help wouldn't change the fact that the copyright of the ultimately created Raise Nan would still belong to him. After all, the two of them wouldn't try to steal the credit. Let's continue training water release chakra nature transformation. Noeki wanted to say something but stopped, eventually saying sullenly. Time reached noon. Everyone paused their training and gathered to prepare for lunch. Watching Noeki control the rotating water flow just now gave me an idea for a new ninjutsu. Natsuki spoke up. But I need Kushina and Nono to help me. I can help. Nono was slightly taken aback. Somewhat in disbelief. What ninjutsu? How can I help? Upon hearing this, Kushina became excited. Minato, on the other hand, had a look of astonishment. So sudden? And didn't you just create a flight-type ninjutsu? If you compress a surge of chakra and spin it at top speed, what do you think would happen? Natsuki asked. Everyone instantly fell into thought. If this chakra exploded, the power would definitely be extraordinary. Noeki clenched his fists. Not only that. Minato said in a deep voice. It wouldn't even require hand seals. After speaking, he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Natsuki truly gave him a feeling of being powerless to catch up. That's right. Noeki realized. This is a seal-less ninjutsu. In the ninja world, ninjutsu that didn't require hand seals were exceedingly rare. I call this ninjutsu the Raise Nan. Natsuki smiled. Raise Nan? It sounds a bit too simple. Minato thought for a moment. How about calling it the Halo Gale Jet Black Arrow Zero style? Noeki, Kushina, and Nono all looked at him with surprised expressions. What's wrong? Is this name not good? Minato asked, confused. Your naming sense is truly unique. Noeki's mouth twitched. It's too complicated. Raise Nan sounds much simpler and easier to understand. Kushina evaluated. Nono nodded in agreement. Let's talk about how to create the Raise Nan. Natsuki brought the topic back on track. Do you already have some ideas? Minato asked curiously. A few. Natsuki extended his hand. I think the first stage is to gather chakra in the palm of the hand. After he finished speaking, Minato and the others also began to try. The first stage wasn't difficult. They could all do it, but the time it took varied. The fastest were Kushina and Nono, followed by Natsuki, and lastly, Noeki and Minato. The second stage is to continuously and steadily release chakra, making the chakra move irregularly in the palm of the hand. Natsuki continued. Shortly after he finished speaking, the chakra in Noeki and Minato's hands suddenly exploded. Obviously, they couldn't control the chakra to move irregularly. The chakra in Kushina and Nono's hands, however, began to flow irregularly. But they didn't last long before it also exploded. The chakra in Natsuki's palm did the same. This second stage feels really hard. Noeki frowned. Wait for me a moment. Natsuki told them and went to a nearby store. He bought a lot of water balloons and rubber balls with money and then returned. I just thought of a method, using water-filled balloons as an aid. Natsuki explained. We use chakra to make the water inside the balloon move irregularly until the balloon pops. This method sounds much simpler. Kushina couldn't help but say. Natsuki, You're really too smart. Indeed. Minato nodded. To think of so much in such a short time, it's simply unbelievable. So it makes sense that Natsuki can create so many ninjutsu. Noeki said with admiration. Let's continue training. Natsuki coughed lightly. In the original story, the Raise Nan was arguably the only ninjutsu whose learning process was explained very clearly. Now that his strength was approaching Jonin level, he was qualified to replicate it. What are you guys doing? Tsunade walked in and found Natsuki and the other three sitting in the courtyard, each holding a water balloon. Sister, we're creating a ninjutsu. Noeki said excitedly. Tsunade was slightly taken aback. What do you mean you're creating a ninjutsu? Does spending too much time with Natsuki make the talent for creating ninjutsu contagious? It's like this. Noeki briefly explained the cause and effect. A seal-less ninjutsu? Raise Nan. Tsunade instinctively fell into thought. Although Noeki only mentioned 2 stages, she could already imagine that the power of the Raise Nan would definitely not be weak. Even at her level, the Raise Nan could still be effective. Teacher Tsunade, do you want to learn? I can teach you. Natsuki asked with a smile. What are you saying, you little brat? Tsunade snapped back to reality, walked up to him, and flicked his forehead hard. Seeing this, Noeki couldn't help but wink and make faces. Finally, someone was receiving the same treatment as him. You guys figure it out first. Tsunade withdrew her hand. If she participated, the progress would indeed be much faster, but it wasn't necessary. First, it would steal their credit. Second, letting Noeki and the others develop the ninjutsu themselves would be highly beneficial to them. Chapter 78, Projection Magecraft Unlocked, Asuma is born. The next day, Natsuki and Nono arrived at the Senju clan compound. Good morning. Kushina greeted them with a face full of smiles, brimming with energy. Natsuki nodded and looked at Noeki. He was staring intently at the balloon in his hand. Creating a ninjutsu isn't that simple. Natsuki reminded him. Noeki, your main goal should still be learning water release and water breathing. Then why were you able to create ninjutsu so quickly before? Noeki asked in return. Natsuki was instantly speechless. He didn't know how to answer this question. But Natsuki is right. Tsunade walked out of the living room. Your talent does not lie in creating ninjutsu. That's really hurtful. Noeki sighed and put away the balloon. Everyone has their own strengths. There's no need to force it. Tsunade comforted him. Noeki nodded. I'll go practice water release and water breathing. Kushina, Nono, and Minato also began their respective training. Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki stood in place. I want to learn new kenjutsu. Are you talking about the kenjutsu in Konoha? Tsunade asked with some confusion. In her view, Natsuki's kenjutsu was already good enough to rank in the top 3 in Konoha. Although there were many kenjutsu styles in Konoha, most of them were below A rank. In terms of power, they couldn't compare to the kenjutsu Natsuki created. The more I learn, the easier it is for me to integrate them and create more kenjutsu. Natsuki gave his reason. Hearing such words from your mouth feels really out of place. Tsunade sighed. Normally, such words should be spoken by a powerhouse at the level of teacher. Natsuki gave her the aura of a grandmaster. Although she didn't know that everything he did was to unlock character template abilities. Then I'll teach you Senju-style Kenjutsu's second granduncle's Kenjutsu. Tsunade considered. Senju Tobirama's Kenjutsu? Natsuki nodded slightly. As for why Senju-style Kenjutsu originated from Senju Tobirama and not Senju Hashirama, the reason was simple. Senju Hashirama didn't need Kenjutsu. He just needed to clap his hands together, and whatever he called for would appear. Natsuki formed hand seals and created a shadow clone. The shadow clone went to practice water release chakra nature transformation. He followed Tsunade to learn Senju-style Kenjutsu. Summer vacation quietly slipped away amidst their training. Class 4A entered its second semester. After more than a month of hard work, Natsuki and the others completed the second stage of Raise Nan training. Now at the third stage, they replaced the balloons with sturdier rubber balls. Natsuki estimated that Kushina and Nono would be able to learn the Raise Nan before graduation. He, Noeki, and Minato would be slower. Although he said slower, it was actually already very fast. In the original story, it took Minato a full 3 years to develop the Raise Nan. Of course, developing the Raise Nan and learning the Raise Nan were two different concepts. Although Natsuki was also developing the Raise Nan, he had a cheat, so it would be much faster. Besides the progress with the Raise Nan, he also unlocked an ability. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Sasaki Kojiro Template Ability 2, Vitrification. Its requirement was simple, no emotional fluctuations in 6 consecutive battles. Moreover, it didn't restrict the opponent's strength. Natsuki just fought Naoki and Minato 6 times. After successfully unlocking it, he also tested the effect of vitrification. How should he put it? It was even more zen than post-nut clarity. He felt completely free of desires and indifferent to everything. In short, it was an extremely terrifying state. Fortunately, it could be turned off. If he had to keep it on all the time, life would have absolutely no joy. Time advanced to October. Natsuki arrived at the Senjo clan compound as usual. Previously, he would go to the ninja academy for half a day every day, but ever since he learned the shadow clone jutsu, he had his shadow clone go to school instead. After greeting Kushina and the others, Natsuki went to the riverbank. He extended his hand. Ripples instantly appeared on the river's surface. A stream of water sprayed outward like a fountain but was quickly controlled and gathered together. Natsuki's training for the second stage of water release chakra nature transformation was nearing its end. He felt he could complete it today. An hour later, a line of text floated before his eyes. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Kamatu Tanjiro Template Ability 4, Water Breathing 7th Form, 8th Form, 9th Form. Natsuki took a glance and couldn't help but relax. After working hard for so long, he had finally unlocked all the first 9 forms of water breathing. It seems that during my absence, you've still been working very hard. A sudden voice rang out. Teacher. Natsuki subconsciously turned his head and saw Orochimaru. Here. This is the second Kusanagi sword I found. Orochimaru produced a Kusanagi sword. Consider it a gift for our long-awaited reunion as teacher and student. Thank you, teacher. Natsuki couldn't help but smile. This was truly a double blessing. After obtaining the Kusanagi sword, he could unlock the true projection magecraft. Teacher, why are you back? Has the war in the Land of Rain stopped? Natsuki put away the Kusanagi sword and asked curiously. It hasn't stopped, but it won't affect Konoha for now. Orochimaru said as he walked. I came back because teacher invited me to attend the Shishia banquet. Shishia banquet? Natsuki quickly realized. The Shishia banquet was a custom in the ninja world where guests were invited to a banquet on the 7th day after a child's birth. So Sarutobi Asuma was about to be born. I see. Natsuki nodded. Teacher coming back early is perfect. You can guide Naoki and me. Teacher, you're back. Seeing Orochimaru, a look of pleasant surprise instantly appeared on Naoki's face. When did you get back? Why didn't you let me know? Tsunade asked with surprise. Where's Jiraiya? Didn't he come back with you? To prevent Omegakure and Tsunagakure from making a move while I'm away, I returned secretly. Orochimaru explained. Jiraiya didn't come back. He'll return after I finish attending the Shishia banquet. War is truly troublesome. Tsunade said with disgust. What she hated most was war. Back then, her grandfather, Senju Hashirama, had finally managed to pacify the chaotic world, but shortly after his death, war broke out again. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Since it's rare for you to be back, get some good rest during this time. Tsunade changed the subject. Orochimaru nodded. Teacher. Naoki suddenly said proudly. During this time, I've become much stronger. Words are empty without proof. Orochimaru smiled faintly. I'll show you. Naoki picked up the great sword Samehada and walked into the courtyard. Water breathing. Orochimaru subconsciously glanced at Natsuki. What Naoki displayed was exactly water breathing, but he only knew the first 4 forms. Even so, coupled with the special nature of the great sword Samehada, he could hold his own against some Takebutsu Jonin. You've improved very quickly. Orochimaru praised. Hee. Naoki stopped. The smile on his face grew even brighter. Tsunade smiled. Although her younger brother's personality wasn't very suitable for a ninja, he brought them a lot of joy. We also developed a ninjutsu. After placing the great sword Samehada on his back, Naoki extended his hand and used the Raise Nan. But he hadn't mastered it. The rotating chakra quickly lost control and exploded. Noeka had long grown accustomed to such failures. Before it exploded, he widened the distance. A very interesting ninjutsu, Orochimaru said seriously. If completed, it might be rated as A rank. It's called the Raise Nan. Noeka shook his hand and explained. It was Natsuki's idea. That was to be expected. Orochimaru nodded slightly. If it were truly Noeka's idea, then he would be surprised. After speaking, Orochimaru looked at Natsuki again. Natsuki thought for a moment and demonstrated double circular and white launcher for him. Tsunade and Noeka had already seen these two abilities. As for the newly unlocked last three forms of water breathing and the previously unlocked broken phantasm, he had never used them and there was no need to demonstrate them now. A flight ninjutsu. Compared to double circular, Orochimaru was more interested in white launcher. After all, flight ninjutsu were truly rare. Unfortunately, it has quite a few drawbacks. Orochimaru said regretfully. It cannot fly freely in the air. Natsuki nodded. Flying with white launcher was indeed lacking. After the demonstration, Natsuki and the others resumed their training. After all, it was impossible to stop training just because Orochimaru returned. Natsuki went to the riverbank again. He took out the Kusanagi sword and began to project it. When the projection was successful, a line of text appeared before his eyes. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Heroic Spirit Emiya Template Ability 3, Projection Magecraft. Natsuki only felt his body tremble, vaguely sensing a special barrier. That was undoubtedly Unlimited Blade Works. Because Heroic Spirit Emiya's Projection Magecraft was essentially a byproduct of Unlimited Blade Works. But since he hadn't unlocked Unlimited Blade Works yet, he couldn't use it and could only vaguely sense it. Natsuki let out a breath and used Projection Magecraft. In the next second, a replica of the Kusanagi sword appeared before him. Holding the genuine sword in his left hand and the replica in his right, he crossed them and smashed them together fiercely. A piercing sound rang out. Both Kusanagi swords remained completely unscathed. Natsuki couldn't help but nod. Now, there was no difference between the replica projected by Projection Magecraft and the genuine article. The only pity was that there were very few ninja tools with special functions in the ninja world. Otherwise, Projection Magecraft would truly be invincible. But few as they were, they did exist. If he had the chance to project the Uchiha Tsunbei in the future and clash fans with Uchiha Madara, he reckoned it would leave Madara scratching his head for 3 days and nights. Another week passed. On October 18, Sarutobi Asuma was born. This meant that the batch of ninjas Natsuki was familiar with would also be born around this time. Such as Yui Kurane, Hitaki Kakashi, Might Guy, Uchiha Obito, Nohara Rin, and Shizuan. Chapter 79, Tsunade, Sleep Together. Under the night sky, the Sarutobi clan compound was brightly lit and very lively. Because today was the 7th day after Sarutobi Asuma's birth. Natsuki followed Orochimaru and Tsunade to take their seats, but they didn't sit at the same table. He, Noeki, Minato, Kushina, and Nono sat at the same table commonly known as the kids' table. Besides them, there were also Uzumaki Kei, Narashikaku, Akimichi Choza, Yamanaka Inoichi, and others. Natsuki looked around and, with Noeka's enthusiastic introductions, recognized many characters from the original story. For example, Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hayashi, Yui Shinku, Yuditen Koharu, and Mito Kato Homura. It wasn't until the Shishia banquet was about to start that he saw Shimura Danzo. The current Pot Shadow's appearance was somewhat different from his debut in the original story. He didn't have that arm full of Sharingan yet, nor was he crippled. Danzo scanned the area. When he saw Natsuki, Nono, and the others, he paused slightly. His eyes changed. But he quickly returned to normal. Although his heart wasn't as calm. The more famous Natsuki and Nono became, the more regret he felt. If they had joined Root back then, Root's strength would definitely have reached a higher level. But unfortunately, there were no ifs. He temporarily had no way to deal with Natsuki and Nono. Unless he could become the Hokage. But that was also a delusion. Danzo knew very well that the next Hokage would definitely be chosen from among Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. Even if he shamelessly competed, he couldn't beat them. That's Shimura Danzo, the leader of Root. Root belongs to ANBU but isn't managed by them. Noeki introduced. Root has a very bad reputation and does all sorts of evil things. Don't interact with him unless necessary. I understand. Natsuki nodded slightly. Nono subconsciously looked at him. She remembered when they were at the Konoha orphanage for the root test, Natsuki had told her to hide her talent. At that time, she didn't understand the reason. But now she understood completely. Fortunately, she had listened to him back then. Otherwise, she would have joined Root and lived a completely different life. Thinking of this, the gentleness in Nono's eyes deepened. Right at that moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen walked out. With him were Sarutobi Biwako and Sarutobi Asuma in her arms. A phrase suddenly popped into Natsuki's mind, old but vigorous. Because Sarutobi Hiruzen was already 42 years old, and Sarutobi Biwako was 1 year younger at 41. Having a child at their age could be considered having a child in one's old age. Natsuki secretly thought, truly a role model for our generation. Sarutobi Hiruzen said a few simple words and announced the official start of the Shishiya banquet. Natsuki chatted with Noeki and the others while finishing his dinner. The night deepened. After the Shishiya banquet ended, Natsuki and the others went home. The next day, after saying goodbye to them, Orochimaru returned to the Land of Rain. 2 days later, Jiraiya suddenly appeared before them. After exchanging pleasantries, he took Minato away, saying he wanted to teach him privately for a while. Natsuki guessed he was going to teach Minato that legendary ninjutsu, the Flying Thunder God technique. But Jiraiya didn't teach for long, leaving in a hurry after less than 2 months. Because the situation on the battlefield in the Land of Rain changed suddenly, and Konoha ultimately couldn't avoid it entering a 3-way free-for-all with Omegakure and Tsunagakure. However, Konoha's entry actually decreased the intensity of the battlefield in the Land of Rain. After all, in a 3-way free-for-all, if 2 sides fought too fiercely, it would be easy for the third side to pick up a cheap advantage. Time advanced to December. After the final exams for the second semester of Class 4A ended, winter vacation began. Natsuki also successfully unlocked a new ability. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Komatu Tanjiro Template Ability 5, Water Breathing 10th Form, Constant Flux. It had been more than a year, almost 2 years, since Natsuki obtained the Komatu Tanjiro template. Now, he had finally unlocked all the abilities. But he wasn't in a hurry to test Water Breathing, 10th Form, Constant Flux. Natsuki took a deep breath and activated Water Breathing, Total Concentration, Constant. In an instant, he felt a change in his body. With every breath, he had the illusion that his body was getting stronger. Actually, it wasn't an illusion. Water breathing, total concentration, constant meant he could maintain a fully concentrated breathing state all day long. This was equivalent to keeping water breathing active at all times, never turning it off. Over time, his body would imperceptibly become stronger and stronger. Natsuki stroked his chin. With the Komatu Tanjiro template fully integrated, he had one less thing to do. He no longer needed to spend time practicing water breathing and water release chakra nature transformation. Next, he should focus on unlocking the Kirigaya Kazuto template and the Sasaki Kojiro template. He could start by unlocking the Kirigaya Kazuto template's ability 2, Transcendent Reaction Speed. After all, Transcendent Reaction Speed was very useful in combat. It seemed he needed to go out on missions. Natsuki. Right at that moment, Tsunade's voice reached him. Natsuki snapped back to reality and walked into the courtyard. Sister, is there a new mission? Noeki asked with an expectant face. The reason he asked this was that Tsunade called them over as soon as she returned. Previously, when this happened, it meant she had accepted a mission for them. There is a mission, but it has nothing to do with you. Tsunade shook her head. For this mission, I'm only taking Natsuki. Why? Noeki immediately clamored. In terms of Kenjutsu alone, I can already participate in the Takubutsu Jonin exam. I naturally know your strength very well. Tsunade explained. This mission is to the Land of Rain. The battlefield is chaotic, and your strength isn't enough yet. Hasn't Natsuki not graduated yet? Why let him go to the Land of Rain? Noeki was stunned. Kushina and Nono also showed concerned expressions. As for Minato, he had been learning the Flying Thunder God technique from Sarutobi Hiruzen recently. Jiraiya was on the battlefield in the Land of Rain and couldn't teach him. Tsunade couldn't teach him the Flying Thunder God technique either, so ultimately, it had to be taught or rather guided by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Natsuki is already a Jonin. Even in the Land of Rain, he is qualified to go. Tsunade paused. Our mission this time is to deliver logistical supplies to the Land of Rain and bring back seriously ill ninjas. Damn it! Nawaka clenched his fists. I have to become a jonin as soon as possible too. Actually, I'm not even a genin. Natsuki blinked. That's true. Hearing this, Tsunade couldn't help but laugh. In this regard, Natsuki could be considered a weirdo in the history of Konoha. He clearly had jonin level strength but hadn't even graduated from the ninja academy. How can you still joke at a time like this? Kushina put her hands on her hips. The land of rain is a battlefield. You must be careful. With teacher Tsunade here, nothing will happen. Natsuki reached out and pinched her cheek. Kushina snorted lightly but didn't say anything more. All right, Natsuki, go prepare. We leave this afternoon. Tsunade rubbed Kushina's head. Natsuki had nothing to prepare. He was more hoping to encounter a few Takubitsu Jonin or Jonin during the mission to unlock his abilities. Time advanced to the afternoon. After saying goodbye to Kushina and the others, Natsuki left with Tsunade. The supplies being sent to the Land of Rain this time consist mainly of red healing potions and blue healing potions. Tsunade took the initiative to say. Besides that, there are also ninja tools and food rations. Natsuki nodded. He wasn't surprised that the 2 potions he invented had become logistical supplies. Medical ninjas were scarce, and injuries on the battlefield were commonplace, so potions naturally became a top priority. The reason I'm taking you with me is because only you and I know how to make the red healing potion. Tsunade added. Are we going to stay in the Land of Rain for a while? Natsuki realized. Tsunade replied. We need to make a batch of red healing potions before we leave. Natsuki didn't mind hearing this. After all, it gave him more time to unlock character template abilities. Upon arriving at the entrance of Konoha, a group of ninjas was already waiting. Lady Tsunade. A young man with the Byakugan stepped forward. All supplies are in place. Nothing is missing. Thank you for your hard work, Hisashi. Tsunade nodded, waved her hand, and shouted. Move out. Natsuki subconsciously glanced at Hyuga Hisashi. He was Hyuga Hayashi's biological younger brother, but his ending was quite tragic. Kumigakure ninjas kidnapped Hyuga Hinata, were discovered by Hyuga Hayashi, and he killed them on the spot. As a result, Kumigakure turned the tables and demanded Konoha hand over the murderer. To prevent Kumigakure from starting a war with Konoha, Hyuga Hisashi ultimately volunteered to die in Hyuga Hayashi's place. Hello. I am Hyuga Hisashi. Hisashi looked at Natsuki. I am Natsuki, Senior Hisashi. Nice to meet you. Natsuki immediately responded. Although I am your senior, in terms of strength, I might not be a match for you. Hisashi smiled. Natsuki was now extremely famous in Konoha, so he naturally knew many of his exploits. For example, defeating Mifune, the leader of the samurai in the Land of Iron. Natsuki felt that Hisashi wasn't as suppressed or cold as he was in the original story. Probably because he was still young and his relationship with Hyuga Hayashi hadn't broken down yet. We haven't fought, so winning or losing is uncertain. Natsuki said casually. I'm very interested in the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist. We can spar and exchange pointers when we have time. Although Hisashi was young, his strength was not weak. He was roughly at the level of a Takubitsu Jonin now. In other words, he met the condition for unlocking character template abilities. No problem. Hisashi agreed. Unlike the Uchiha clan, although the Hyuga clan had pride, they knew how to assess the situation. At least on the surface, they had always supported the Hokage's faction. Natsuki was a ninja of the Hokage's faction, so he naturally wouldn't offend him. The Land of Rain bordered the Land of Fire, located in the northwestern part of the Land of Fire. The group carried the supplies and headed northwest. By nightfall, they successfully arrived at the border. Tsunade wasn't in a hurry to enter the Land of Rain. The Land of Rain was currently in a state of war. Once they entered, they could encounter battles at any time. They had been traveling for a day and didn't have enough stamina to handle a battle. Tsunade immediately ordered them to set up camp on the spot, rest for the night, and depart the next day. Teacher Tsunade, which tent am I sleeping in? Natsuki looked around. You're sleeping with me. Tsunade said casually. Ah. Natsuki was instantly stunned. What? Are you shy? Tsunade teased. We'll be sleeping in sleeping bags anyway. What does it matter? I'm happy. Natsuki coughed lightly. It seems I'm still quite charming. The corners of Tsunade's mouth curled up. Of course. Natsuki immediately praised. Teacher Tsunade, in my heart, you have always been the #1 beauty in Konoha. Not bad, not bad. You're still as good with words as ever. I like it. Tsunade was even happier hearing this. She put her arm around Natsuki and walked toward the tent. Natsuki bumped his head into her soft embrace, only feeling a fragrant scent permeate the air. He opened his eyes and could only see her clothes and rising and falling skin. It wasn't until they entered the tent that he could breathe fresh air. Bento. Tsunade plopped down on the carpet. Natsuki sat opposite her, took out a bento from his shadow space, and handed it to her. Every time they went out on a mission, Tsunade would freeload his bento. He was already used to it. Why is it that I've been learning for so long, but my cooking still can't compare to yours? Tsunade took a bite of fried shrimp, chewing with a look of enjoyment. Your cooking is already very good now. Natsuki said casually. To improve further, it all depends on comprehension. Why does it sound like improving strength? Tsunade said lazily. Forget it. I'm already very satisfied. There's no need to improve my cooking any further. After eating, she handed the empty bento box to Natsuki. Natsuki stood up, preparing to go wash it. As soon as he took a step, he saw an astonishing scene. Tsunade's mature body fell backward, and upon contacting the carpet, her whole body swayed twice. Natsuki felt his scalp tingle watching this. He turned and walked outside. When he finished washing the bento box, Tsunade had lost even more of her image lying casually on the carpet. Aren't you going to use a sleeping bag? Natsuki asked. Sleeping bags are too narrow. They're uncomfortable to sleep in. Tsunade waved her hand. You can use it. Were you this casual before? It doesn't look like you're on a mission. Natsuki asked curiously. When have I ever? Tsunade glared at him. Brat, don't slander me. I only relax a bit in front of you and Nawaki. Natsuki thought carefully. During their previous missions, she indeed had the demeanor of a ninja. Of course, judging from the original story, that was all just a disguise. Her current state was her true nature. No wonder only Orochimaru participated in the competition for the 4th Hokage. Jiraiya was looking for the child of prophecy every day. Tsunade had absolutely no interest in being Hokage. And Orochimaru barely had some willingness. But his willingness wasn't that high either. He competed for the 4th Hokage position to make it more convenient to conduct experiments. Now that Nawaki wasn't dead, it was hard to say. Chapter 80, Unlocking Kirito's Reaction Speed. Late at night. Natsuki, deep in sleep, suddenly heard Tsunade's voice. He instinctively opened his eyes and met her gaze. Enemy attack. Natsuki was slightly taken aback. Hisashi and the others. Before Tsunade could finish, sounds of fighting rang out outside. Is it Omegakure ninjas? Natsuki hurriedly got out of his sleeping bag. No. Tsunade shook her head. It's Tsunagakure ninjas. Their purpose is most likely to snatch our potions. Konoha's red healing potion and blue healing potion were already well known in the ninja world. They were highly effective and valuable. It was completely normal for Tsunagakure, after learning of their existence, to not be able to resist coming to snatch them. I see. Natsuki immediately asked. What do you need me to do? Under the premise of protecting yourself, repel the attacking Tsunagakure ninjas. Tsunade said as she walked out. Natsuki hurriedly followed. Outside the tent, the sounds of fighting were even louder. Flashes of blades and flying chakra were everywhere. Natsuki, be careful. Tsunade patted his shoulder, clenched her fists, and disappeared from her spot. In the next second, a dense chorus of screams rang out. Presence concealment. An invisible fluctuation spread out. Although Natsuki was still standing in place, his entire presence had vanished without a trace. Without looking directly, it was very difficult to detect his existence. Natsuki scanned his surroundings and quickly identified his target. He was very glad that it was Tsunagakure and not Omegakure this time. Because the vast majority of Omegakure ninjas excelled in water release. Natsuki walked toward his target. It was a fire release jonin. He stood in place, continuously using fire release ninjutsu to attack Konoha ninjas. Weight type magic, gravity mitigation. Natsuki accelerated and blocked the fire release jonin's path. He originally could have launched a sneak attack from the shadows, but he didn't, because he wanted to unlock two abilities simultaneously. Not only did he have to defeat the fire release Jonin, but he also had to dodge 80% of his attacks. Water breathing, first form water surface slash. After Natsuki projected Kurosawa, he swung his sword. Water flowed like blade light, crashing into a giant fireball. Sizzling sounds rang out continuously. As steam rose, water and fire began a frantic intertwining and explosion. The fire release Jonin instinctively looked at Natsuki. Upon discovering it was a half-grown kid, he immediately snorted coldly and formed hand seals with both hands. Fire release, red ground spider. The night sky was suddenly illuminated. A tongue of fire shot out, landed on the ground, and transformed into a gigantic fiery spider. The fire spider sped toward Natsuki. That scorching aura instantly made sweat bead on his forehead. White launcher. Natsuki leaped up. White smoke shot out from beneath him, and he ascended into mid-air. Flight ninjutsu. Seeing this, the fire release Jonin's expression changed slightly. He immediately put away his underestimation. Without a word, he flicked his wrists fiercely. A large number of kunai flew toward Natsuki. Natsuki still didn't take them head-on. The Kirigaya Kazuto template gave him the ability of night vision. Coupled with the heroic spirit Emiya template's clairvoyance, he clearly saw the trajectories of all the kunai. Natsuki's body rose higher again. When he completely avoided all the kunai, he twisted his body and plummeted downward. Water breathing, second form water wheel. Kurosawa rotated with him, unleashing a spinning slash. The fire release Jonin frowned slightly, but his reaction wasn't slow. He formed hand seals and used fire release, great flame flower. A giant fireball over 4 meters wide flew upward toward Natsuki, intending to swallow him whole. Water and fire fiercely clashed once again. But this time, fire release, great flame flower had the upper hand. Water breathing, third form flowing dance. Natsuki twisted his wrist. Kurosawa sliced into the giant fireball from multiple directions. Steam permeated the air. Flames splattered torn apart amidst the water like blade light. Seeing this, the fire release Jonin formed hand seals again. A water dragon flew out amidst a roar. Shadow assassin. Natsuki vanished directly, hiding within his own shadow. What's going on? A look of confusion appeared on the fire release Jonin's face. The steam dissipated, and the water dragon, having missed its target, rushed far away. But the problem was that Natsuki was in mid-air with nowhere to hide. The fire release Jonin didn't understand where he went. Right at that moment, a sound of tearing air rang out behind him. He instinctively turned his head and saw a slash that seemed capable of shattering the tide. At the critical moment, the fire release Jonin clapped his hands together and used the body flicker technique. A massive amount of chakra surged from his feet. His body rapidly retreated backward, but Natsuki relentlessly pursued him. The fire release Jonin immediately opened his mouth and spat out a fireball. Seeing this, Natsuki withdrew his sword and dodged to the left. The fireball brushed past him. The fire release Jonin was slightly taken aback, not understanding why he forcefully evaded it. But he didn't think much and formed hand seals again. Flames spun rapidly. A fire dragon tore through the air, striking toward Natsuki. Shadow assassin. Natsuki dove into the shadow. The fire dragon missed and flew into the distance. So it's a shadow secret jutsu. The fire release Jonin finally saw the shadow on the ground clearly and stated with certainty. You are a ninja of the Nara clan. Natsuki dispelled shadow assassin. The moment he appeared, he threw a pile of kunai. Just before they hit the fire release Jonin, a water wall rose up. He didn't just know fire release, he also knew water release. Natsuki wasn't surprised either. After all, he was a Jonin. Knowing two elemental jutsu was very normal. Without stopping, Natsuki threw the projected Kurosawa. Kurosawa hit the water wall but only penetrated a fifth of the way before it could advance no further. Seeing this, the fire release Jonin couldn't help but smile. But just as his smile appeared, Kurosawa and all the kunai suddenly exploded. The water wall was torn apart in an instant. The chakra generated by the explosion enveloped him at once. Caught off guard, the fire release Jonin let out a miserable scream. Various tears appeared on his clothes. Blood seeped out from them. Double circular. Natsuki projected 2 Kurosawas and dashed forward. More blood sprayed out. The fire-release Jonin's head fell off. Without a doubt, Broken Phantasm was the primary contributor to this battle. The fire-release Jonin didn't expect the ninja tools to explode, thus suffering a huge loss. Natsuki didn't even look and continued to throw himself into the battle. Tsunagaku had relatively few Jonin who excelled in fire release, so he didn't force it and specifically targeted Takubutsu Jonin. After he killed 2 more Takubutsu Jonin, this encounter ended with Konoha's victory. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Kirigaya Kazuto Template Ability 2, Transcendent Reaction Speed. Natsuki nodded in satisfaction. Besides that, the Kirigaya Kazuto Template's Ability 4, Starburst Stream was also 1/3 unlocked. He only needed to defeat 2 more fire-release Jonin. Clean up the battlefield immediately. Take the supplies and the wounded, and leave. Tsunade said loudly. Severely injured ninjas can be issued a vial of red healing potion to maintain their condition. She was worried that the Tsunagaku ninjas would return. Natsuki casually tossed the projected Kurosawa into his shadow space. The ninja tools he projected now could exist for a long time. Theoretically, he could project them in advance during his free time and store a lot of ninja tools. However, since he hadn't unlocked unlimited blade works yet, he could only store them in his shadow space. The shadow space had a weight limit, so it wasn't suitable for storing too many ninja tools. After changing camps, Tsunade sent people to notify Orochimaru and Jiraiya while leading the medical ninjas to treat the wounded. Natsuki didn't know medical ninjutsu, so he didn't participate in the rescue. He sat aside to rest, recovering the chakra he had just consumed. By the time dawn broke, Jiraiya arrived with a group of Konoha ninjas. The situation is not bad. It's basically under control. Tsunade took the initiative to say. Were there any losses to the supplies? Jiraiya nodded and asked again. They are perfectly intact. Tsunade replied. That's good. Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief. The arrival of these supplies will greatly ease our pressure. Are there many wounded who need to be taken back to the village? Tsunade asked about her mission. There are quite a few. Jiraiya said with an ugly expression. Especially those who were poisoned. We can only barely sustain their lives. Hanzo's poison. Tsunade's expression also became serious. Jiraiya nodded. I can't explain the specific situation clearly. You have to see it before making a decision. Lord Jiraiya. Natsuki waited for them to finish talking before stepping forward to greet him. You actually came too? Are you the only one? Jiraiya was somewhat surprised to see him. He currently has Jonin level strength and can protect himself. Tsunade explained for Natsuki. He can also help make medicine. I see. Jiraiya was one of the few people who knew Natsuki could make the red healing potion. After their chat, the group headed toward the Land of Rain. In the morning, they finally arrived at Konoha's main camp in the Land of Rain. Orochimaru led many Jonin to welcome them at the entrance of the main camp. Teacher. Natsuki stepped forward and greeted him. Go to the main tent. Orochimaru nodded. On the way to the main tent, Natsuki noticed Uchiha Mikoto. She had just walked out of a tent. Upon meeting Natsuki's gaze, she couldn't help but stare blankly. Natsuki nodded at her but didn't say anything, following Tsunade and the others into the main tent. Tsunade, report the situation. Orochimaru was currently the commander of Konoha, so he held the leading role. Tsunade immediately recounted the status of the supplies and the losses from last night's battle. Tsunade, go check on those poisoned ninjas now and see if you can detoxify them or slow the spread of the poison. After understanding the situation, Orochimaru immediately ordered. Tsunade paused. Gather all the medical ninjas in the main camp. No problem. Orochimaru agreed without hesitation. I'll take you there. Jiraiya volunteered. Tsunade nodded and left with him. Natsuki pondered for a moment and followed them. He couldn't be of much use staying in the main tent, and Tsunade's mission was his mission.
Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200+ audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.